This episode is brought to you by Amazon Video Games. Visit bit.ly/Amazon Backlog Battle, all one word, when you buy anything from Amazon so we can continue offering our back catalog of shows.
This is the Backlog Battle Podcast, episode 173.
I buy Jansport.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Backlog Battle Podcast. This is Alex.
And this is Anthony.
How's it going, dude?
It's going. I'm excited for today's episode.
Oh yeah? Why's that?
Well, it's not just you and I this week. You know, we got a special guest coming.
Oh yeah? Who is it?
It's my good friend Xander from the XS Gaming Podcast, and I'm pumped because it's going to be a couple hours of us shooting the shit, and you guys get to hear it, so.
Yeah, I know. I totally can't wait to listen to this and even talk to Xander. You know, it's funny because for the longest time, we've tried to get all three of us, even his co-host, all four of us in the same room, but we just can't do it. You know?
Yeah, whether it's this podcast or his podcast.
Yeah, but today we actually have him live, quote unquote, right now. So let's bring him in, shall we? Hey, Xander, how's it going? How's it going, man?
It's going well. It's great to be on the show. Long-time listener, long-time fan.
Mm-hmm. Thank you,
Xander.
Yeah.
And it's about damn time because I've been on your show how many times? 2, 3?
I want to say maybe 3 times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Once, twice, 3 times at Anthony.
And
yeah.
And then we tried to get Alex in one time, but it just didn't work out logistically.
Yeah. It's difficult for me because weekends are, kind of like home time, I got to take care of things in the household, so it's really different. That's actually why we record during the week, for me and Anthony. So
yeah, that's the same way I am with some podcasting. Like right now, I started a new job, and this week right now we're supposed to be recording a new episode, but I'm wanting to get a guest on, and I'm like, I need to get back in the workflow, and this new job has totally different scheduling. So yeah, it's weird. It's weird with podcasting, especially with guests, because you're trying to schedule everything around everybody and micromanage everything. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. But before we actually get into the nitty-gritty of the conversation, wherever it's going to go, I think we have to take the time to kind of talk about who you are and why you're on the podcast, I suppose. Because we're just podcast guesting? What the fuck are you guys talking about? Who is this guy?
This guy just showed up for no reason.
Right? Yeah. This random dude just kind of just went in our office and said hey, can I be a guest on the podcast? Sure, man. Here's a microphone.
Well, a little bit about myself. I've been doing podcasting and YouTubing for about 4 years now, going on 5 in September. And I actually started it both at the same time. A lot of times you find people that do YouTube, and then later on they're like, I want to start a podcast, or people that do podcasts, right? I want to start a YouTube. I kind of did it at the same time. Initially, I wanted to just start a podcast, and that came from curiosity. I was listening to All Gen Gamers podcast, and I'm like, man, this is really, really cool. I was listening to a lot of episodes, and I've always liked talk radio. My dad used to work for a couple of radio stations. That's what he did. So it kind of rubbed off on me, and I was like, I'd love to do a talk show, radio station about video games, kind of like All Gen Gamers. So I started doing that, and after about a month or so of doing that, a couple of episodes, I'm like, well, I want to start a YouTube channel and kind of, advertise my podcast. So I started doing like YouTube channels, and they were very short. The videos were like maybe 2 minutes long. I was like, hey, I got a new podcast episode. Come check it out, and then it started kind of like morphing into like, oh, I want to start doing like a pickups video. I want to start talking about series. And I started getting influenced by other YouTubers. And I was like, okay, and I want to start making YouTube videos. So it became like two different entities, but the same thing and the same sort of attitude. And that attitude is I've always wanted to have that feeling of, very relaxed. Like you just walked in the door and I'm like, hey, have you played Ys? And you're like, no. And I'm like, sit down. Let me tell you about Ys. That's kind of like what I've always wanted to do with the show. And even my co-host, James, he started out as a guest. He was my first guest. And our chemistry hit it off so well that I was just like, well, you're going to be my co-host now. And he's like, awesome. Because my first couple of podcast episodes were solo, and I don't know about you guys, but solo podcasts are very, very depressing.
It's really rough. It's totally rough. Like I've listened to like there's the Giant Bomb like minute, I guess. It's like, or the Gaming Minute. I think it's like it comes on some sort of like, radio like show and stuff.
What?
Mm-hmm. It's literally a minute. It's just Jeff Gertzman trying to summarize the whole week in 1 minute, and I'm like. That's insane. Like, how do you summarize a whole week of gaming in 1 minute? But he does it. He does it every week. It's for CBS. So it's like, all right, well, cool. It works, I guess.
Yeah, I think if you have like a solo podcast, it definitely would have to be maybe at the most like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That is if you have a very, ambitious personality, because like I would be pushing 10, 15 minutes, and I was doing these solo podcasts live on Blog Talk.
Ooh.
On my cell phone. That's how green I was when I first started podcasting. And of course, I was lucky enough that no one was listening, even though I put it on Facebook. And I'm like, check out my podcast. I'm so glad they didn't, because
oh God,
it was pretty bad. It was like a kid like trying to play Nirvana on the guitar for the first time. It was just atrocious.
So I was just going to say, just for the listeners, you and Xander and I are actually pretty good pals, and it's funny because you first heard of me on All Gen Gamers, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was funny. I heard about you on All Gen Gamers, and that's kind of where it stopped. I watched a couple of your videos because they were talking about how your videos are so unique, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to check those videos out, and that was it. And then I used to be a moderator on a Facebook group page, and all of a sudden Anthony pops up, and I'm like, who's this guy? He's a moderator too? So then I look into it, and I'm like, oh, that's the guy from All Gen Gamers. Oh, okay. So it's funny because you realize, with YouTube and podcasting, and I guess the whole gaming community, depending on what community you're a part of, because I feel like there's no just a gaming community. It's a huge spider web. Mm-hmm. You kind of realize how small it is. One person you talk to used to hang out with this guy or talk to this person. They used to have a show, or it's really, really crazy.
Yeah. It's like it is definitely a big spider web, because like it's funny because like we started off really, really small, and because I noticed like when I joined like around 2009 and stuff like that, I was like, there's not a lot of gaming stuff on YouTube other than, Angry Console Gamer. Or, I'm sorry, who was it? Angry Video Game Nerd. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Thank
Angry
you.
Video Game Nerd.
Yeah.
There probably was an Angry Console Gamer somewhere, because there was a lot of clones.
Yeah, absolutely. There's probably a bunch of clones out there. And the thing is, like, when we saw that, like, I was like, we got to kind of hit the ground running. And so when I started my group back then, I was like, all right, it's got to be friends. It's got to be then. And then to expand, we're going to try to, pick, and choose like who to kind of partner with and stuff, like who's actually established, content creators. Now, this might sound totally geeky for all those people out there listening, like, ooh, content creators, but I do want to ask, though, because I'm curious. I don't get to ask Anthony this question a lot. When we recorded the first episode of our podcast ever, what did you think overall of like how I treated it? Because, it's quite, I feel like it's quite a contrast between what Xander was talking about, right?
Right.
Yeah, I remember listening to the early episodes, and it almost like, I don't know. You could tell it was in the early stages because you guys had like your own. It was like very step based.
Yeah.
It was like you guys would do this and do that and put that in there, and then after a while, those steps started becoming more and more like loose.
Yeah.
And now, like the way the podcast is now, I was telling Anthony, I was like, one of the reasons why I like Backlog Battle is because it's very organic. I like the fact that you guys don't always get along.
Oh God,
I do. I mean, let's be honest here. I do like the contrast. When you guys talk, because face it, there's a lot of podcasts out there that are full of yes men. Or you feel like there's a guy that's like Johnny Carson and the other guy's like the sidekick that laughs at all of his jokes, and that's cool for certain shows. Where this show, what I like about it is, Anthony would say something, you like question him or he questions you, and it brings out a great conversation, and it brings out two different perspectives that the listener can look into and be like, he's got a point there. Or like, what the hell was he thinking?
Yeah.
So I like it. I like that a lot.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thanks for answering that for Anthony, but I was actually asking Anthony what he thought of the podcast.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, snap.
Well, okay, so when we really started, which I don't know if you know this, Xander, but we were podcasting back in 2009. And when Alex and I started, one of the big differences was, and Alex, I'm not insulting you, okay? I tell you this at least once a month, but you were kind of a bitch back then, and I mean that in the way that
wouldn't be the first time you've called me that, but okay.
No, what I mean is you didn't have the backbone you do now. Does that make sense?
Sure.
And back then, when you would try to argue with me, it wasn't authentic. You would just try to be devil's advocate to make the show interesting. But then when we did Gamer Horizon, the second podcast we did, while I liked those episodes a lot, though a lot of them ran like 4 hours long.
Oh God,
the evolution of that show, we started to become more real to ourselves. But then when we did this one, when it was called Social Link, like Xander said, it was a step-by-step process.
Yeah.
And like we experimented with segments, then we did try to do the live shows, and then all of a sudden we ended up into this format that we have now, which I'm quite happy with. So.
Yeah. No, so now, Xander, I'm kind of curious. So, like, obviously you have very good knowledge of like Backlog Battle. Have you listened to those old episodes, or have you found them at all? Because I know that's like in an obscure, weird part of the internet that's not cataloged somewhere. It's like,
I think where I started is I started listening a lot right when you guys started going by Social Link.
Okay.
Because at that moment, that's when me and Anthony started talking a lot, because we were both moderators at that Facebook group, and I was like, getting to know each other. I got a podcast. He's like, I got a podcast too, and I like checked it out. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, because I've been, I don't know, like I've been thinking about this with Anthony. Well, actually, not with Anthony. It's more like me. I was going to spring it on him. Like, as always, I always spring things at the last minute with Anthony, right? Like,
yeah,
I
like
know...
a name change, bastard. When you know what? I'm going to tell this story on the air. When we changed it to Backlog Battle, he didn't fucking tell me.
He was so pissed. Anthony was so pissed. He's like, "We're changing our name again? What the hell?"
But you know what, though? I conceded, because I'll be honest, Epic Restart kind of sucked.
That was a weird name.
Yeah.
Super weird.
I don't know. Yeah. And don't get me started on Social Link. We won't go there. So
yeah, you already talked about it about like 2 weeks ago, how, okay, let's stop that. But like, I was kind of thinking, because I know where some of the old episodes of our very first podcast is, and I was just thinking of like just looking at the dates when I posted it and just started backfilling our current podcast with those episodes, because we changed our podcast so many times anyway, like the name. So I'm just like, well, technically we started with TPPPG, so let's just fucking start there, and I'll just like fill all the episodes in the back in 2009. So because it's funny, because I actually listened to our old episode, and it was like, man, the quality is so different. Like, Anthony would not, because you gotta understand, Xander, back then, like I tried to make it as professional as possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we both had like these really cool, cheap, like $15 Plantronics headsets. And and the funny thing is, like, the first few episodes, and mind you, I was like really active with like editing the podcast and stuff like that, but every single episode I kind of noticed like there was one constant thing. Every single time Anthony talks, he like completely like slaps the microphone on the headset every single goddamn time. So there's one time that I yelled at him and said, "Anthony, stop fucking hammering that goddamn microphone, because I need to fucking edit it out every single goddamn time."
He was getting so pissed.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah.
No, we
there was even that one time that you broke the headset, and I had to send you another one, and I was like, God damn it. Oh, man.
Oh, those early days. A lot of things were different. I mean, you were in a different state. I was married back in those days, so I had to be a little bit more restrained. I remember recording the podcast, and my ex would be sitting across the way.
Oh.
And Alex was there a few times when she would yell at me.
Oh, yeah, I would hear that. That was brutal.
So Xander didn't know me in my married days. So
yeah. And that's kind of like why I don't know. What do you think about it, Xander? Do you think like it'd be kind of fun to like be able to listen to those old episodes?
I think it would. I mean, because honestly, when I get into something, I get totally just into it. Like when I get into a band, okay, I get all their albums, but I also like try to listen to like their indie stuff. I try to listen to like one of my favorite bands, X Japan. I get all of the X Japan albums, but I love going to those Indie X the Indie X albums, when they were, in their teens, when they were like 14 years old, recording their, first songs on tape decks and stuff like that. And I think, when you listen to that and you got that mindset, it makes you appreciate where the band, or in this case a podcast, where it is now.
Yeah.
You can appreciate it more, because it's not like you guys just came out of nowhere and you had these really nice audio setups and stuff like that. You guys had some hiccups, and maybe as even a listener and aspiring podcaster, because someone could be listening to your podcast and they can be inspired the same way I was with All Gen Gamers. It feels a little bit more tangible. Being like, oh man, that at one point these guys, were slapping their mics and breaking their headsets. These guys are doing this at one time. And now, what I want to do and start it out, it doesn't seem so bad. So then, that curiosity like I had starting a podcast, if it wasn't for the fact that, I went back and listened to old stuff or listened to other podcasts that didn't sound as great, nothing against any of those podcasts, but listening to those and being like, this sounds good. A lot of people like to listen to those people. I can do something like that too. And eventually upgrade and get better microphones, better equipment and stuff like that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because like it's interesting you mentioned about the quality and stuff, because, I feel like, Anthony can attest to this, but I'm a stickler for quality.
Oh yeah, he's not a stickler. He's anal about it, which is not a bad. He's exceptionally anal about it.
Thank you. I mean, I guess that's a compliment, right?
It is. You're a perfectionist. No. But
I'm the same way. Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way sometimes with the way mics are. I mean, it's bad because sometimes when I'm recording a podcast, I have a notebook beside me. And a lot of listeners, they don't realize, unless they do podcasting too, how much goes into it, because I'll have this notebook and I'm sitting there listening. I'm sitting there talking like normal, but I'm sitting there with a pen and piece of paper looking at the clock. And if I hear like a hiccup or if I hear something crazy, I like write it down. So when I go to edit, I'm like, okay, around like the 5-second mark, James burps and it sounds really, really weird. I'm going to make sure I cut that out.
Dude, we're so late. Like, okay, so in terms of like, quality and stuff, like we've gotten it to an acceptable quality, actually, that I barely edit anything out anymore. It's kind of crazy. It's just whatever you hear is pretty much the raw us.
Well, the one thing that I think we mastered early on, and having been on your show, because I've been on your show, I co-hosted for James once, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and then so that one went well. But the one where it was me, you, and James, I remember that show. That was a lot of fun. There was no dead air, and that's the same thing with Alex and I. That's the one thing I think we had problems with that, like maybe in the first 3 episodes of TPPPG, but we mastered the no dead air.
Right.
we killed that right away. So we never really struggled with that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's another weird thing about podcasting, because that's like one thing you're scared of is dead air, but then also you just have those podcasts that go like way too out there, where I feel like this is going to sound weird. I feel like a podcast has to be organic, but at the same time it has to be a show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's some podcasts I'll listen to where it sounds like two people are just having a random conversation, and sometimes it works, but sometimes I'm just like, did they just leave the recorder on? They're just like hanging out, sitting in the living room, talking about whatever comes to their mind. I mean, it still has to have some sort of like links to it, like a chain. It still has to have some connection to it, you know?
Right.
Yeah. I'm going to be kind of nice here. Okay, Alex? About what I'm going to say. There's another podcast that I discovered recently, and it sounds exactly the way Xander said it. Alex, you know what I'm talking about.
Sure.
But I'm not going to mention the name, though. Okay. But yeah, there was a podcast that I heard, and it just sounds like a group of guys talking. And that's fine because I do that with my friends. Mm-hmm. But when you do a podcast, there should be a symmetry. Let's be honest, doing a podcast is not fucking easy.
Mm-hmm.
And, everyone thinks it's like YouTube, and this is my belief. And I know both of you know this, but I don't think everyone can do a podcast, and I don't think everyone can do YouTube. And I honestly stand by that. And there's a lot of people who do podcasts that should not be doing podcasts. There's a lot of people that should not be doing YouTube. It's mean, but that's just the goddamn truth.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. What do you think, Xander?
Yeah, it's quite the rant, but all right. All I can say is like, all right, I agree. Cool. Thumbs up.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I mean, it is what it is. Some people, it's like anything. Some people are cut out for certain things, and some people aren't. Mm-hmm. And sometimes people find a niche for it. Maybe a completely unscripted podcast, just full of organic conversation, it works. Sometimes doing a solo podcast works. I think it all depends on the individual, and I would say for anyone who's listening that wants to start a podcast, just, use a lot of the stuff that you listen to that you inspires you, and try to use that as kind of like a template. If you listen to a podcast that sounds really good and you're like, man, this is what I want to do, don't do the direct opposite just to be different, because sometimes it doesn't always work out.
Right.
But we all make mistakes too. I mean, that's the learning process of it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a good while. Like even by the time we did this show, it took us even by the time we did this show, Alex and I had 2 shows under our belt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it took us a good while to get our footing on this one even. So
right.
So I mean, that's exactly true. So when I say that someone shouldn't do it, I'm talking about someone who's been on YouTube for 5 years and their videos are bland still, But when someone who's done it like a couple videos for like maybe 3 months and, you're starting to see a little bit of improvement, that's something different.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean. Yeah. So
to sum it up, like my personal opinion, there is a great quote by Pablo Picasso where he says, this is to Sanders' point, good artists copy, great artists steal.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's a great way to kind of like learn from and kind of apply your, what you've already learned, what you've heard of, how other people do it. And you just build upon that. And most of the podcasts that I was listening to at the time when Anthony and I started way back in 2009 were very much segment focused. And so, it's interesting that we just kind of flowed into like this whole, kind of conversational kind of show, and we just kind of stuck with it, and it works extremely well.
Before we move on, you just reminded me of one of the dumbest, in hindsight, it's one of the dumbest fucking things I ever did. We had a segment where I would find a stupid fanboy quote on the internet, and we would just trash them. Remember that?
Yep.
It was What was it called? Elitist fanboy stupid comment of the week or some stupid shit.
There was actually an episode of this podcast that actually is called the Return of the Stupid Elitist Fanboy Comment of the Week.
Really?
Yeah, you were the one. Actually, it's funny because you were actually the stupid elitist fanboy in that episode.
Fuck you, dude. I don't remember.
Yeah, you should Yeah, you should look at our archive. We have all our episodes on there.
I'm gonna look into it because you have your own elitism, Alex.
Well, you're more elitist than me, so I'm just saying.
Okay, Mister. I won't buy a game for voice acting.
That's not elitist. The elitist part for you is like, I only like DC films. That's it. That is, and I don't care about what you say. The part where you say I don't care about what you say instantly makes you an elitist.
Oh, fuck
I never said that I don't want to hear other opinions. I never said that. You did.
I'm gonna find this fucking episode. God damn it!
I'm just saying.
I'm gonna find this goddamn episode and fucking.
It's funny. See, this is also indicative of like how much Anthony listens to the podcast. He doesn't. No,
I do.
Kidding.
I have been lately.
Yeah, you have. I'll give you credit. You have.
I have been lately.
You've been really good. Like, do you want me to give you a cookie for that, or?
Fuck you, Alex. Okay, Mr. Abzu, I'm fucking you and your shitty jokes.
Oh man, you reminded me. So you're screwed. You reminded me of that joke. So you're totally screwed for this episode.
Oh fuck me.
It's your fault. It's your goddamn fault. Anyway, so we know about your podcast, and we talked a great deal about podcasting, which I hope people out there who are listening actually is more encouraged to actually try doing the podcasting thing. And by the way, the reason why it's called podcasting is because it shows up on iPods and iPhones. If it's on YouTube, it doesn't count. If it only shows up on YouTube, for that matter. So
a Google Hangout is not a podcast.
Yeah, a Google Hangout is not a podcast.
Are people really doing that now?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
that's apparently a thing. There's a reason why the word pod is part of the name. Anyways, so we talked about your podcasting, like history and stuff, and yeah, I've enjoyed a lot of the episodes of the Excess Gaming Podcast. Is really amazing. You guys should go check it out. But furthermore,
it's really good.
Yes, it really is good. I'm kind of curious, like, where, what kind of stuff that, do you really talk about that? Do you go for more older stuff, newer stuff, or kind of like a mix of in between?
I mean, it's a little mix in between. We try to have a overall theme sometimes. There's times I'll text James, I'm like, hey, this episode, let's talk about the DS and handheld games.
Nice.
And then sometimes we'll have an episode where we're just like, you know what, I can't come up with a topic. Let's just kind of BS a little bit. Let's talk about games, because me and James don't get to talk every single day to each other. So sometimes our podcasts are actually just us talking about games, like, because James doesn't really follow too much like gaming news. So it's kind of interesting because we'll have an episode where I'm talking about gaming news and it's the first time he's heard of it.
Right.
So that's actually kind of cool in the sense that you're having a live reaction, recorded reaction of someone's thoughts about the Nintendo Switch, this is what's going on, and he's like, oh really, and he'll talk about it. So we'll have episodes like that. We'll have episodes where we have like a guest, and when we have the guest, we talk a lot more about their channel. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. So pretty much what I try to do is have at least an hour show, 30 minutes of like game talk, catching up. We talk about the weather a lot. I don't know why we started doing that, but we always open up the episodes talking about the weather. But we'll talk about that, and then after that we have a little music break, and then we come back and talk about the meat of the episode. Rather it's kaiju movies,
nice,
based video games, or it's like Nintendo DS or our favorite beat 'em ups. It's amazing. We've done it for 5 years and we haven't ran out of stuff to talk about.
When I came on the show in December 2015, Xander purposely chose superhero video games.
Funny.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun, and then we ended up talking about arcades, which listeners know of this show know that's a favorite topic of mine. So,
oh yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So okay, so I guess let me. I was trying to get an answer out of you, but I didn't get it. Going from the left side, I'm going to go on the right side here. What platforms do you play games on?
Oh man. I play a lot of PS4. I've been playing a lot of PS4. I recently got a Switch, so I've been playing that.
Nice. Anthony, you need to get one.
Yeah.
Yeah, mister, I'm not going to buy a Switch, Alex. And then you're like, yeah, I'm never buying a Switch. I'm done with Nintendo. Then what do? Fucking launch day, you buy one.
You know, the funny thing about the Switch is, and maybe you can agree with this, Alex, is that the Switch is one of those things that you don't really realize how interesting it is until you actually have it.
Mm-hmm.
And then these possibilities open up in your head. Like next week, we got Street Fighter 2. Ultra Street Fighter 2 coming out for the Switch. Now, when I first initially heard that Street Fighter 2 was coming out to the Switch, I'm like, oh, great, another port of Street Fighter 2.
Right.
You know? But at the same time, I was like, you know, I like Street Fighter 2, but I was like, I'm not going to buy it, though. Then I got a Switch, and I realized the portability of the Switch. And I'm like, oh, man. I was like, I could go out to eat with my friends and say we're going to Chili's and, you know, we go in there and the lady's like, oh, you got like a 30, 35-minute wait.
Mm-hmm.
Let's play some Street Fighter.
Yeah.
You know, let's sit down and play Street Fighter. Also, the other day I went to a bookstore coffee shop and I brought my Switch and I was playing Mario Kart and this chick walks up to me and she's like, oh man, is that Mario Kart on is that the Switch? And I'm like, yeah. And we start talking about it. It's a great conversation opener. And, you know, with Nintendo's little coy pun, sharing the joy, you know, breaking off the Joy-Cons, you know, you could be like, hey, you know, let's play some Mario Kart. Boom, you've made a new friend and you're playing Mario Kart in a coffee shop. So
exactly.
Yeah, so you look at that and you're like, it's pretty cool.
Not to cut you off, but like an image just came into my head because you mentioned coffee shop and a girl, and I was like thinking to myself, like, hey, baby, do you like my Nintendo Switch?
You can't exactly do that, Alex.
What? What are you talking about?
You have a girlfriend.
Well, yeah, but I'm just kind of like thinking in my head, it's like, you know, instead of, you know how like, you know, in dating sites and stuff, they, you know, if you're a single man, like some people would be like, well, if you, you know, I don't know, like walk your pet out, you walk your dog and stuff, like, you know, girls would be more interested in you. It's like akin to like walking a dog. The Switch is the new dog for gaming, man.
Oh, God.
And you got to think about it. I mean, I'll be upfront. I'm very introvert when it comes to things. I'm not a big bar goer. I don't really like going out and being around a bunch of crowds. I see like maybe 2 or 3 movies a year in theaters because I can't stand hearing people smack popcorn. So like this Nintendo Switch is kind of cool for people like me in the sense that I don't like to just walk up to strangers and be like, hi, I'm Xander. I like to do YouTubing and I have my passions in video games. But, you know, if I'm playing the Switch and they walk up to me and they're like, hey, you know, it's a conversation opener. And I think that's really something special Nintendo's kind of done. And it almost kind of makes me feel like the old days of the arcade scene.
Yes.
And, you know, in the sense that you had the arcade cab, you had everyone, you know, circle around the cab and watch people play Street Fighter 2. We're going to see this with the Switch. We're going to see people have, you know, Street Fighter 2 meetups. You know, I can see this in comic book shops or, you know, I have a place right up the road, Cape Fear Games, where they specialize in, you know, tabletop games and stuff like that. And they have little tournaments. Boom, Switch is going to be where it's at when it comes to that.
I think so too. You know, one of the things that I was actually thinking about and stuff, and by the time people listen to this, you know, like, you know, it's already done. On my birthday, I'm actually going to be bringing my Nintendo Switch, and my birthday is just going to be going to all 4 of the major theme parks in Southern California.
Oh, like, stop right there. I need to explain this to people, to Xander in particular. For Alex, he doesn't have a birthday. He has a birthday week or a birthday month.
Oh, there you go. There's some crazy shenanigans going on over there. But, yeah, so...
Okay, you know, it's fixed.
Okay. All right.
I heard like some music in the background right before you cut out. You're like, oh, God.
I can't turn on the PS4 without the headphones on.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah. The same kid, you know, that peed on your Xbox 360, right?
Fuck you, Alex. You won't let. Well, you know what? I'm not letting Abzu go. So
you know, you give me a lot of shit already. It's fair for me to give you a ton more shit. Know. I don't give you a lot of shit, but that one I do.
I know you do. You've mentioned it over the last decade.
Yes.
Do you know that story, Xander? Did I ever tell you that?
No, I mean, it sounds pretty straightforward. Your kid decided to pee on your 360.
Well, there's a little bit more to it. For those that
there's a motive. There was a motive to it.
He was 2 at the time. He was 2. This was about 07, 08. And when he was potty training, he wasn't exactly potty training. He was pottying all over the place. So we had an issue with that. So I don't know why, but my Xbox was on, and for some reason he decided to pee on it. But you know what? It ended up happening. It didn't smoke or anything. I shut that shit off. It red ringed. Now, in those days, Microsoft had a 3-year warranty on the red ring because you remember that fiasco?
Oh, yeah.
And what I did was I sent it in as a red ring repair, and I got it back.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in his defense, he was 2 years old. The 360 was like big and white. He probably thought it was like a space age toilet or something.
Right. Oh man! But Anthony, I before that interruption, you were going to say something.
I forgot what I was going to say now.
Jesus, it had a point.
Yeah, it had a point. But no, what I was going to say was, I actually kind of have an announcement to make here on the show.
Okay.
I got a little extra money, so I might be getting a Switch if I can find one.
Oh, that's exciting. I'm actually really excited for you, man.
If I can find one.
Come on, it's Colorado. Who else is going to have it?
Okay. When I tried to buy a Wii back in February of 2007, about 3 months, I had to have a friend that worked at Circuit City hide one of those Wiis so I could go buy it back in the day.
I will say, I don't know how it is in Colorado, but here in, where I'm at in Wilmington, the Switch isn't really too hard to come by. I think that's one thing that Nintendo, and I hope I'm not jinxing saying this. This is one thing I feel like Nintendo's done kind of well, and that is having a pretty decent surplus of Switches. Now, I say that because I think you guys can agree with me. I think Nintendo's like the yin and yang. Everything that Nintendo does that's good, they do something just as bad to piss you off.
Yeah.
I love Nintendo. Some people will like consider me like a Nintendo fanboy, and I'm like, no. I was like, I will call out Nintendo when they do something stupid, like the NES Classic. That was dumb.
I'm the same.
But I mean, at the same time, like they will do something that's kind of cool. Their online service. When they were like, oh, because isn't it supposed to be in November and it's like $24 a month or a year or something like that?
24 a year, I think.
Yeah, and I'm like that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Now, this is where Nintendo could come in, and I'm hoping that their online service is good and it merits and makes you want to pay $24 a year. Yeah. So. I hate the fact they brought back friend codes too. That really irks me.
Well, that's a Nintendo thing that's never going to go away, sadly. But like going to your point though, like the annual fee, it's still kind of messed up because like one of the things that people are starting to forget because now Nintendo's like, well, ARMS is online, like Mario Kart 8 is online, like Splatoon is online, is that you do get a copy of a virtual console game once the online service releases, but it's only for that month. So that's really retarded because you basically can't, in order for you to actually play it beyond that point, you have to buy the virtual console game.
And that's where the word politically incorrect comes in, folks.
Yeah.
We're just the podcast, which is great.
Well, yeah.
It is retarded. I'll say it too.
Yeah, it is.
Go ahead.
Anthony is like just all over the place. It's like, I'm just going to interrupt Xander every single time and pause and make him think like he's going to talk again. But no, I'm going to interrupt him. Anyways.
Fuck you, Alex. No, let me say something real quick. I do think it's bullshit because unlike PlayStation Plus, which allows you to build a library without actually owning games, I wonder if someone actually has PlayStation Plus, doesn't buy any games, and the only games they have are PlayStation Plus games.
That's
yeah, that would be weird. But you could build a library that way with PlayStation Plus. But this way is, I don't know. This is it's dumb because let me give you an example. You know who does that? Pinball Arcade. Pinball Arcade gives you 4 free games each month, and then they rotate those games out for another 4 games. So they're doing something that something free already does, but you have to pay for it.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, this like free game they give you every month and you decide if you want to buy it. I wonder if it's going to be, because I mean, they were talking like it's going to be virtual console stuff. I'm wondering if it's going to have something more to it. Like I've heard rumors on the mill that, say you'll get Contra 3 and it'll have like online co-op.
Yes,
that would be kind of cool because I'm sorry. I mean, I love Nintendo, but I mean, to sit there and be like, oh, this month's free game is Super Mario Brothers 3. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. I mean, at least with PlayStation Plus, they'll give you some obscure indie game that you're just like, oh, I'll try it out. It's free. I'll try it out, and then you'll play it. Or, I mean, man, there's so many PlayStation Plus games I've just downloaded just because.
Yeah. I just download PlayStation Plus games for the hell of it, and it's funny because like, what is it now? Like it's about the fourth year of the PlayStation 4, right? And the PlayStation 3 by comparison was like around 8 years old by the time like it just kind of petered off. I have more games now thanks to a combination of self-purchases and PlayStation Plus games than I did back when I had like a PS3. It's kind of insane.
Goddamn.
Yeah.
And the crazy flash sales they have.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Their flash sales are great. I mean, I'll be like, oh man, this game's only $3. Like I got Strider for $4 a couple months ago.
Great game.
Yeah, and I was like, yes.
You just got. I thought you had Strider longer.
No, I got it just a couple months ago when I was on the flash sale. Oh, you know what it was? I played a little bit of Strider because I did the PlayStation Share Play. I played a little bit of it, and I'm like, you know what? I really want this, but I want a physical copy of it,
right.
And I want to import it on the PS3, and I just never did it. And then I saw it for $4, and I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do it because I've changed. This could probably be a good topic. I've changed a lot of my taste when it comes to games. There was a time that I wanted everything to be physical, and I wanted to play everything on the original hardware. Now I'm like this crazy guy that just loves to emulate. I love digital, and I just love the convenience of it. I'm selling most of my collection right now just because I want room for other things like more PlayStation 4 games. Why have a bookshelf full of Nintendo games when I can play it on a Raspberry Pi, and that bookshelf could be full of brand new crispy PlayStation 4 games?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, we're pro digital here for the most part, right?
Well, pro both.
I know I am.
Pro both.
Yeah.
Because my whole thing is like, I have physical stuff because it's kind of like I still have that whole feel of like, well, this is like, the prized collection of Alex, like, so you walk into my home, you look at like the games that I have and you'd be like, that's a very damn good collection there, good sir. Like you'll see like everything there. You'd be like, you notice like there's like some of the really cool games like like Final Fantasy X like in its original case, like the GameStop collector steelbook edition of like Final Fantasy 12 as examples, and just a whole bunch of like other like games that are out there. Now, mind you, I have started recently buying like digital games as well, but like sometimes I might be a little bit too cheap and I want to go digital. And so sometimes like I actually, go to Amazon because I have an Amazon Prime account, and, because they have like 20% off on new games. If you're a Prime member, go use bit.ly/Amazon Backlog Battle. That's the plug.
Nice.
Yeah.
That was smooth.
And it's just like, you get a $59.99 game for like $47.99. And, I even did the math and I told Anthony, look, man, if you do that, you get another game for, because you save that much money using that, that discount. It's kind of insane. So sometimes when I'm like impatient, I'll do digital. I'd be like, okay, I got to get it.
Right.
But then, but also going into that, and I'll give you this, Anthony, after this, but you then get those flash sales and you're like, I can't avoid it. I have to get it now.
Yeah, when you get like 8 games for $20, I mean, that's nice. It's a nice feeling.
I like flash sales. I did make a great mistake though in a flash sale a few months back. I saw Android Cactus. So,
Oh God, yeah. I got duped too. Don't worry.
Yeah, fucking Jason. We have a friend named Jason, and he was saying, "Oh, this game's better than Enter the Gungeon."
Okay.
And Jason,
first of all, I talked about Assault Android Cactus last year in a podcast. You should have just listened to that one, Anthony. I would have told you about it. Like, it was free for PlayStation Plus. It was totally free. This is why I download every single PlayStation Plus game, or at least put it in my purchase list, so that in times like this where you're like, man, Assault Android Cactus, huh? Let me go check that out again. Oh my God, this is not that good, you know?
Yeah, it's just... that game. Xander's heard as much as you have about me bitching about it, though, right, Xander?
Yeah, that was. Well, I was told it played a lot like Smash TV.
What?
And I was like, really? Smash TV? I love Smash
that's how
TV.
Jason described it to us.
Total Carnage. Yes, I will download this.
No way.
Sadly mistaken.
Yeah.
Now, to be fair, Jason does usually have good taste.
Yeah.
He does. And so we trust him, but that's the one time he failed us.
Mm-hmm.
But I think you always had that moment, friend. You know, you have someone that's like, man, I really like this, and you're like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah. Going back to something I mentioned earlier, though, before Anthony interrupted, then not interrupted, then forgot what he was going to say.
God damn you, Alex.
Hey, you know, it's... I was, you know, I'm going to take my Switch to those theme parks, because I'm going to go through Magic Mountains, Knott's Berry Farm, Disneyland, and all those places. And, you know, and I figured you were mentioning, like, you know, like being, you know, waiting for, like, a line at a restaurant. I'm like, well, you know, at a theme park, there's a shit ton of lines there. So I kind of thought to myself, you know, I was going to bring my Switch during those trips, because what's the perfect way to kind of just, you know, break the ice or even do something while you're waiting, right? Than actually play on the Nintendo Switch. That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, just imagine if, like, you know, you got some nice little JRPG or something. You're like, oh, well, I'm waiting to go on Space Mountain. I'll just, you know, do a couple grinds, go up a couple levels, get some EXP, you know? Yeah. Why not?
Mm-hmm. And also, the most amazing thing about the Switch, too, and I'll give it to you, Anthony, after this, is, you know, it uses a USB-C connection, and people don't care about what that is, but what it actually does is it allows you to use cell phone batteries, like external cell phone batteries, to actually charge the Switch. We are just now getting that, actually. Like, there are chargers that are strong enough to be able to self-power the Switch, and it's really amazing, because you can use that either on your Switch or your phone. It works both ways. It's amazing.
Oh, nice. That's pretty cool. I was just going to say, with you, Alex, I was going to say, we've talked about this on the show, but Xander may not know this, but your whole Switch library is digital, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's because of the convenience, right?
It's absolutely because of convenience. I did the same thing with my Vita. Like, I completely refuse to buy anything physical for any portable or pseudo-portable platforms, because, you know, who wants, like you said, like, you know, if you're in the middle of a line, like in, you know, Space Mountain or something like that, do you really want to fumble with those tiny, like, cartridges for the Switch and switch them around? Yeah, no, you wouldn't want to.
Yeah, and those little game cards are so small.
They are.
They're so small.
Mm-hmm. I thought.
Are they really?
Yeah, they are.
Huh.
I want to say they're smaller than, like, SDHC cards.
Oh shit! Are you serious?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they're pretty small.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how big are the games? Like, I'm that's what I'm curious. Like, okay, so I don't know what you have, Xander. Do you have Breath of the Wild?
I don't have it on the Switch. I had it on the Wii U, and I beat it. And I'm probably gonna get Zelda for the Switch like a year later when I decide I want to go back into it.
Mm-hmm. I want to say, Zelda for the Switch is actually pretty tiny. I want to say it's like maybe 13, 14 gigabytes, maybe. I could be wrong.
Shit.
I could be wrong. It might be bigger than that, but that's what I remember it being, which to me, that really surprised me. I was like, what? Really? Like, that small? But it is.
But the Switch only has like 30 gigs though, right?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so, like, for example, if you buy, like, you know, Dragon Quest Heroes 1 and 2, which come in a package from the eShop, well, guess what? The onboard actual memory cannot fit that entire game in it, actually. You need to buy you need to buy an external memory card for that.
Yeah, or like they you can get like the micro SD cards for them too.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, man, they have so many sales. I mean, this week, I know by the time everyone's listening to this, they're like, well, this is not doing me any good. But right now at Walmart, you can get a 128 gig micro SD card for like $12.99.
Yeah.
Like,
Now,
why not?
Exactly. But here's the biggest problem, though, and this is huge. And so far, Nintendo has not addressed this at all. If you actually like swap the memory cards and stuff like that, there is no way for you to copy saves between memory cards.
What?
Yeah, I heard about that. A matter of fact, one of my friends, really good friend of mine, actually, that's one of the reasons why he doesn't want to buy a Switch right now.
Mm.
He was just like, because he was like, I don't want to, put all my hours into a game and something happens to my console and I'm just SOL. I'm like, yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure it get addressed at some point, I hope.
I hope at E3 at least. I mean, they're coming out with a lot of games, and it's just like it's kind of crazy. Remember we talked about this, Anthony, like about a couple of months ago, which it's insane that this is still not addressed.
Yeah, it should be though. That's a big problem. That really is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they need to fix that whole
save game DRM.
Yeah. Look. I'm a Nintendo. Between the both of us, I think I'm the bigger the Nintendo fan, right? Wouldn't you agree, Alex?
Mm-hmm.
Even though I don't own a Switch, and you do, but I agree. That's one of Nintendo's big problems. They can't handle DRM.
Mm-hmm.
They don't handle it well. I don't know if you agree with that, Xander.
No, I do agree with it. I think Nintendo, like, even when it comes to piracy and stuff like that, they set themselves up so quick on that. It's almost like because they're so anti-piracy that people want to pirate it just to prove a point.
Yeah.
So crazy.
It is crazy.
So I wanted to ask you, Xander, what are you playing on your Switch the most?
Right now, just Mario Kart 8 and Graceful Explosion Machine, which that's really, really fun. It's a really fun game. I've been playing that a lot. I got Binding of Isaac, and I feel kind of bad. I can't get into it. I think it's a good game, but I just can't get into it for some reason. I don't know if it's I'm not used to roguelikes. That maybe that's what it is. I'm not sure.
That's all good, man. It's not. I mean, I love the game the most out of me and Alex, but I understand it's not for everyone though, because it is roguelike, and I know there are people who don't like it through the gungeon because of its brutal difficulty and roguelikes. Roguelikes just aren't for everyone, and I get that,
It's one of those things, like, I'm not one of those kind of people like, oh, Binding of Isaac is horrible because I don't like it. I can see where people like it, but it's like I play it and I'm just kind of like, it's fun. It's fun.
Yeah, it's pretty challenging.
But I'm looking forward to Street Fighter 2 and ARMS. Like, that's on my radar right now.
Yeah. I'm kind of sad, though, that, like, all the games that I want to play are coming out, like, right after, my birthday thing in California, because it'd be so cool to be able to play ARMS or even Splatoon, like, locally and stuff, but I guess I'll have to deal with, like, with Mario Kart Deluxe being portable and stuff, as if that's bad, right?
That's not a bad...
Well, did you guys watch the Direct yesterday?
Mm-mm.
I missed it.
They left they left some pretty big bombshells of ARMS. Apparently ARMS is going to have you're going to be able to do 20-player LAN parties with ARMS.
20 players?
Yeah, you can use 10 switches, and each person can have a Joy-Con, and it's going to be like 20-player ARMS. I'm like, this doesn't scream like a con party right here. Like when you go to like cons, and like I went to a anime con, and one of the things they always do is like the Tim Blair Bomberman from the Saturn. They do stuff like that, and I'm like, yeah, I can see conventions, having these big ARMS parties. Also, it was confirmed that it's going to be a part of esports as well, just like Smash Brothers and Street Fighter and all that stuff. So I think Nintendo's really, really pushing ARMS. Like, they're pushing it really hard. Mm-hmm. No pun intended. But I'm surprised they haven't made any amiibos yet. That's the only thing I'm like, come on, Nintendo. I know you guys are going to come out with some amiibos.
Yeah, at some point they will.
Now, for Alex may not know this, but Xander, you collect a lot of amiibos, right?
Not that much anymore.
Because they haven't released any.
Well, no, they have, and that's some of the problem. Like when they first started coming out with amiibos, I'm like, this is awesome. And I was one of those people that had like the apps on my phone, and I would get notified when like something was on Amazon to pre-order it. Wow. I was one of those kind of people. But it got to the point where it was just so many of them were coming out, and I was like, I can't keep doing this. I mean, they're cool. I like the concept of amiibos. I'm like, they're physical DLC essentially.
Yeah.
And they look cool on a shelf, but yeah, I mean, after a while, it was just like I still buy some of the amiibos, but I don't go as crazy about them anymore. I think I bought like one Breath of the Wild amiibo, and that was it. That was the Link with the bow and arrow, and that was it.
Dude, I learned my lesson when I started collecting Disney Infinity stuff, and then they killed it. I was like, ugh, that was bad.
I only own one amiibo, and that's Wolf Link.
Yeah.
Because I got the Twilight Princess remake, and it came with it. So that's the only amiibo I own.
So that's going to be interesting. Like, if you want to play with your amiibo and you're like, I don't know, like, going to ride a roller coaster in about, like, 45 minutes, do you have to, like, bust it out of your fucking backpack and be like, all right, ching! All right, I got, like, I don't know, super jump powers. I mean, that sounds ridiculous.
I mean, just imagine like being at an amusement park. You know how they have those nets that catch everything. There's like there's like a cell phone, hairbrush, makeup thing, an amiibo,
right?
Fuck,
that's ridiculous, man. But yeah, that's kind of like my plan is like. So here's the thing too, that's kind of crazy. So knowing the trip, right, that it's coming. Well, it's already happened by the time this comes out. I've been looking at, like, maybe somebody was smart enough to basically create, I don't know, Nintendo Switch apparel / bags so that, you can put it, like, in the back of your backpack, and the people that it's, like, that's, like, right behind you can play the Nintendo Switch while you have your backpack on.
There's no protective cases or anything for it yet?
No, there are, but that's not the point. If I have a backpack already, wouldn't it be cool to just have it right smack dab on the cover on the front of my backpack, so that way it's already floating in midair. Nobody has to fucking hold it while you're in line at Disneyland, and it's just right on your backpack. You just play it off of your backpack. It's
going to come out now that you mention it.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of like what I'm talking about, because I'm like, come on, guys. Like, how many times are we out there with bags or whatever, and we want to have a protective casing, like what Anthony suggested, but also, like, I don't know, if we're standing around and stuff, like, it'd be cool if we could just look at somebody's backpack, the Switch is there, you just bust out the Joy-Cons and start playing. Nobody has that. But you know what they have is fucking Nintendo Switch backpacks. And I'm like, I don't give a shit about those, because it doesn't allow me to do what the Switch allows me to do. But why is this $90? I'm so confused.
Wait, what the fuck?
Yeah. These Nintendo Switch
$90 for a backpack?
Yeah, because it's branded Nintendo Switch. I'm like, it's just a regular backpack.
What? Dude, I spend $20 on this backpack for school that lasts me like 3 years.
Yeah.
Fuck that.
Like those old Jansports and stuff, right?
Yeah, I buy Jansport, Jansport is probably better quality than Nintendo's cheap-ass fabric.
Yeah, well,
whatever they use.
Now, Alex, I was going to ask you: Did you get a little third-party kickstand kind of thing for your Switch?
I got
that is one. That's one thing I will complain about. That kickstand is like, it's flimsy.
Boy, I have a story to tell you. So last month, I basically had attended a Twitch meetup and stuff. And, I wanted to be the popular kid in the block, so I brought my Nintendo Switch, right? And, it was cool because it was very mobile, like the kickstand and everything. Until, when I moved it to the next room, there was like a classroom we had to move into because we got so big that we needed to, right? And I accidentally snapped the kickstand off. And I was like, God. Oh no, what the fuck? I was so angry, right? And then I looked at the little kickstand thing, and I guess Nintendo knew that so many people were actually going to fucking break it. So I just kind of snapped it back, and lo and behold, it's back. But yes, this is the worst kickstand I've ever seen for anything. Like, why isn't it even in the middle? Why is it on the side? This is insane.
I'll mention another defect that I had with the Switch that really, really freaked me out, because it was like the second day I had to switch. My sister's boyfriend came over and I'm like, oh man, look, I got the Nintendo Switch. And we were going to play Mario Kart, and I went to go put those little wrist strap, little connectors onto the Joy-Con.
Right.
I put one in backwards.
Oh.
And oh God, it freaked me out so much. I went on YouTube, and apparently, there's like a little pin that you stick like a thumbtack in and it pops it out. Cause I guess Nintendo also know that, like, people are going to put these in backwards because you're supposed to match the plus and minus with each Joy-Con. And you're like, you don't even think that.
Yeah, people are idiots. They're going to do this. Here we go.
Yeah. So, that sucked. That scared me so much when I did that, but
I actually stopped carrying those rails because people would just prefer to actually play it the regular way. And it's a good selling point, right? Because, like, speaking to that, Twitch, meetup that I was in, I literally just demonstrated how easy it is to just, remove the Joy-Cons from the side of it, or even like easily attach it if you want to play Zelda. And people were like sold. They were like, I want one of these now. And we're talking people who had absolutely no idea that they wanted a Nintendo Switch, and they were just like, this build is really nice, the controller feels good, even the shitty right Joy-Con joystick position for Mario Kart, people were like super okay with it. Like, they were like, yeah, actually this works really well for Mario Kart. And I'm like, yeah, man, it's Nintendo. I mean,
now what about the Pro Controller? Do you have a Pro Controller yet?
Yes, I actually have two of them.
For the Switch?
Yeah.
So can I ask a question about those? Say you take your Switch out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like out in the town to your amusement park.
Sure.
And could you take your Pro Controllers with you and then set it up so you and like 3 other people could play?
4 other people, probably. If you have like 2 Pro controllers, like, again, let me restate this, because sometimes this is lost in the messaging. You can play 4-player Mario Kart on just the screen alone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. So basically 2 Pro controllers and then the Joy-Cons. That's 4 players.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Again, but the problem is this. Who the fuck is going to hold the Switch if you're lining up and standing up in the goddamn theme park ride?
Well, not third-party kickstands for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Not at all.
So, Xander, just out of curiosity, you said earlier not to switch from Nintendo too much, but you said you've been playing a lot of your PS4, right?
Yes.
What have you been playing lately?
Man, this shows you guys how much I'm up to date with video games. Right now, I'm playing Final Fantasy 15 for the first time.
That's not. Come on, that's not too bad, man. That was like at least 6 months ago.
That's
true. You're not playing Dragon Age Inquisition.
Yeah,
like Alex and I have, which is 2014.
I'm playing Final Fantasy 15. I'm loving that. The last game I probably beat on the PlayStation 4 was, and I got it when it had first came out, was of course Yakuza 0.
Oh yes.
Such a great game. And it's one of those things that's like, my co-host James, he's a huge Yakuza fan, and he would always talk about it, and it was one of those games that he would be so enthusiastic about it. And I'm like, I'm gonna try this out one day, and 0 was my first like actual experience with it, and I was like, it all makes sense, and I cannot wait to play the remake of Yakuza 1 that comes out. I think it comes out this summer.
It's August.
Yep. I cannot wait to play that. And what a great game. Yeah. It's more of an experience than anything else, because if you tell people exactly what it is, some people, you have one side of people that are like, oh, that just sounds like a GTA clone. Or you have some people that are just like, that just sounds like a glorified beat 'em up. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I have a chicken selling real estate. Yeah. Such a great game.
Mm-hmm.
I need to play that more. Like a lot of games I bought.
Yeah.
There's a lot of games, and you know what? The elephant in the closet for me is still Persona 5.
Of course.
Xander, I didn't tell you this, but Alex and I got a review copy of this game called Mask of Deception.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm having such a hard time playing that because it's a strange strategy RPG mixed with a visual novel. And I'm having such a hard time because it's, that type of game. And it's like, there's Persona 5 I could be playing too.
Now, I will mention a game that I've been playing a lot lately, and it's not a console game. It is a PC game. It's a fan-made game, and that is Castlevania: The Lucari Chronicles 2.
That's weird.
What's that?
It's a straight-up fan-made game. Lucari Chronicles 1 was a lot of fun. The story's kind of interesting in the fact that it takes place in France, and it's during like the 1400s or whatever, and you're playing as like Pierre Lancry or whatever, and he's like sent from the Pope. Like he's doing jobs for the Pope and trying to figure out what's going on with like vampires and Dracula. And actually, Lucari Chronicles 2, they had the voice actor that did Alucard come back and repress his role as Alucard in the game.
Nice.
And honestly, like you play some fan-made games, and some fan-made games are just like they're using the same sprites or using the same music. You're like, this is just like a ROM hack or something. No, these people, like, they straight up made a brand new old style Castlevania. It's lean. It's not really that linear either because it's not really level based. It's kind of Metroidvania, but not exactly. But it has a lot of Castlevania 2 feels to it, in the sense that you go to the town and you figure out where you need to go and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun, and it's free.
Or there's some fan-made games that try to get attention, and I know you know what I'm going to bring up, right, Xander?
Oh gosh, I had a huge backlash too, because I talk very highly of Lucari Chronicles 2, and I talked about the whole fan-made Breath of the Wild game, and people automatically thought that when I mentioned that, they automatically thought that I hate fan-made games. I'm like, no, I don't hate fan-made games. I just don't understand why a talented developer would take the time to do a Nintendo fan-made game knowing it's going to get shut down.
Right.
You know, like, I don't understand that. But then again, you find out, because this guy did the Breath of the Wild fan-made, like, demake, and you find out that it got shut down. He gets interviewed and he's like, well, I think I'll make this game and I'll just change up the sprites and I'll open up a Kickstarter. I'm like, you clever bastard, you clever guy.
Yeah.
So uses 15 minutes of fame to push a Kickstarter.
Yeah. So speaking of Kickstarter, there's actually like a Kickstarter that was started by Masaya Mitsura. I think I'm probably pronouncing that game or name or butchering it. It's basically the guy who created Parappa the Rappa.
Oh yeah, Rap Rabbit.
Yeah.
What?
You never heard of this, Anthony?
No.
So
no, I have not heard of this.
So I'll have Xander actually explain it because, why not? Guests explain things.
Explain things to me.
Well, I mean, I actually found out about it like 2 days ago. But yeah, it's pretty much like it looks like a spiritual successor to Parappa the Rapper. Now, it doesn't have the same graphics. It doesn't have that paper kind of feel to it. It's a little bit different. But yeah, you're like this, rabbit, and from what I saw, you had a sensei who was a frog who, taught you how to spit out bars and stuff, man.
Wow.
It looks awesome.
Yeah.
Instead of an onion guy, you get a frog now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's weird.
And it's like set in like ancient like Japan or something like that. I mean, it looks very royal,
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting. I'm imagining he's probably going to have rap battles with samurai.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. Xander, did you ever play Parappa the Rapper back in the day?
Yeah, I liked it. I did not like Unjammy Lammy. I thought that was it was a very weird game. I didn't like that one as much.
I never played Unjammy Lammy, but I was thinking of buying that Parappa the Rapper HD remake that they just released.
It's one of those games I don't feel like it's aged that great, but the songs are so memorable. Another rhythm game that I really like, and I would buy an HD remaster of it. Day one is Gataru Man. That was a really good. Isn't it? It's like you're like a guitarist, and it's a rhythm based game, and you're like, if I remember correctly, it's like you're a guitarist from like outer space, and you're like wowing people with your guitar skills and making them make up their own songs and stuff like that.
Sounds like the Japanese Guitar Hero. Probably better though.
It was a lot of fun. It was on, I believe, PlayStation 2.
Oh wow.
And PSP.
Yeah, a lot. I've been getting into a few rhythm games myself the last few months. You know about Hatsune Miku anyone that listens to this show, I've been playing that crap.
Jesus Christ.
Alex, Jesus Christ.
My co-host hates that series so much only because, like, when we first started a podcast, he was really wanting Yakuza 5 to come to the West. And it was like Sega, because that's a Sega game, right? The chick with the blue hair?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like, instead of bringing Yakuza 5, they were like, we're making another one of these games. And he was like, oh, that fucking blue-haired bitch. He was, like, so mad. So he like, kind of nonchalantly, like, boycott Sega for a while. He's like, yeah, Sega's dead to me until we get Yakuza 5 over here.
Well, to be fair, to be fair, at the time, it was easy to boycott Sega, because what else were they coming out with that was important?
It's true. It's true. Now here's
a goddamn thing.
Now, did you guys see the thing that they're doing with the new Sonic game? Not Sonic Mania, but the new, like, Sonic 3D game.
Yeah.
What?
Create your own character.
Oh, I'm done with Sonic. Fuck this shit.
Dude, you've been done with Sonic for years, the deal. Though.
Yeah, I have been. And you know what the problem with Sonic? Here's the problem with Sonic. And I'm going on this rant again because I have to. One, they introduced all these stupid fucking characters that they need to euthanize, fucking Biggs the cat, fucking Cream the rabbit. Fuck them. Give me
the
Sonic
rabbit?
Yeah, they have Cream the rabbit.
Wow, that sounds bad.
It's really bad. Yeah, it's a little 6-year-old rabbit, dude. Stupid fucking shit.
Ugh,
and
okay, the thought of it, that's ugh.
Yeah, anyway, they need to euthanize all those characters, go back to the core 3, Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, and Robotnik. It's not fucking Eggman. I don't care if that's the Japanese name. It's Robotnik, side-scroller at the end, no complicated stories. Give me Sonic. That's all I need.
So you'll probably like Sonic Mania then.
I hope.
I'm not even going to risk money on, like, any Sonic game at this point.
I'm not either. I'll wait for the release of it.
So basically, what we're seeing here is yet another iteration of the Sonic cycle, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you've heard of the Sonic cycle, right, Xander?
Yeah.
So we're at the friends part. It's like, surprise! It's going to be an awesome Sonic game. By the way, you could be your own Sonic friend now. Oh no! That's exactly
and that fan base has been doing that for years already.
Yeah.
This time, though, they can make it in the game, which scares the shit out of me because the Sonic fan base is fucking nuts. Just saying, they're fucking nuts. We'll leave it at that. You know
what would be funny is if, the Sonic development team was so much in tune with their fans as they were with, like, the games that they make. Because if you look at the Sonic the Hedgehog Twitter, like, he posts some really ridiculous shit. Like, even, like, the silly drawing of, like, Sonic the Hedgehog that's kind of like stick figure-y, but it looks like it was drawn by, like, a 3 or 4-year-old. Like, it's very endearing stuff, but at the same time, they could be sassy. It's like, none of that stuff is being reflected in a video game. So it's like, it's this weird split between the marketing and the actual games that are coming out. It's like the games are still treating themselves as it's like, it's like the turn of the century still. Like, we're still, like, the Dreamcast was still out for some reason. It's weird.
Yeah, if you want to watch some nice, fantastic cringe moments, watch the latest Sonic Anniversary, like, Twitch live stream.
Oh my god, I think I saw that. Yeah,
you did. We talked about that. You told me it was a disaster, Alex.
It was terrible. It was a bad train wreck. You just didn't want to look away.
Okay, I got a question for you, Xander. Which was worse, that or Sony 2006 E3 press conference?
Oh, I would say, like, the thing about the Sonic stream is it was really, really bad, but it was like I couldn't stop watching it. Where, like, the Sony one, it's like I did get to a point where I was just like, I don't feel like watching this anymore. But the Sonic was like, it was so bad. I was like, I wonder what's going to happen now. Because you had, like, audio issues. You had, Crush 40, like, where the fans didn't know the lyrics to the songs. You had Hello Kitty, like, rubbing Sonic's arm like, it's okay, it's going to be over soon.
What the fuck?
So, I mean, I couldn't stop it. Yeah, you can look it up on YouTube where they just have all the fails as like a 13-minute video.
I mean, let's face it, though, like any sort of press, event or anything that has a lot of fails. Do you guys remember Robbie Drums from that one E3 press conference several years ago, like for the Wii? Where like he basically comes, like I think it was for Wii Music or some shit like that, and he was demoing it for like the Nintendo press conference.
I remember that.
Yeah.
Oh shit, that was funny.
Yeah.
That was when Nintendo had like 4 consecutively bad press conferences.
Yeah, and then they stopped because they're like, we can't do this anymore, guys.
Remember the one where they brought that redheaded snowboarder guy in? And the lady was telling the story about how she goes, because she's rich, she can go skiing, and then she brought Shaun White, the redheaded. Yeah, just dumb shit like that. Nintendo was pretty bad with their press conferences.
Was it Nintendo, though, or was it like Ubisoft's?
No, that was Nintendo.
Okay.
That was Nintendo. And they didn't announce anything good in those ones. It was like, yeah, this is a skiing game. Then when they announce something good like Golden Sun 3, they're like, oh, we're releasing Golden Sun 3. Oh, here's another Wii game that you could pretend drum or pretend fucking whip or something.
Crazy.
Yeah. We have Mario Chargers for your DS.
Oh,
Jesus
shit.
Christ. So let's go back to Final Fantasy 15, because we kind of just glossed over that. Like, how far are you in that game?
Not very far. I just because I just started a couple of days ago. I just now got the part where I just found out like my dad died, and I'm sitting there and trying to figure out what to do, and I got this wedding dress, and I'm like, this is really awkward.
Okay.
I'm at that point, but I plan on paying. I'm gonna probably gonna play it all day tomorrow.
Okay.
So I'm liking it so far. I really like the battle system. I think it's a lot of fun. The graphics are really, really good. I love the soundtrack. I mean, I'm really looking forward to it. It's one of those things I heard a lot of my friends talk very highly of it, and that kind of always makes me kind of nervous, because I might have like an essence like Binding of Isaac where everyone liked the game and I played it and I'm like, I don't like it, I'm so sorry, and everyone's like, what's wrong with you? But so far, I mean, I've been playing it, I'm like, man, it's really, really good, Yeah.
Alex and I really like the game ourselves, but we do recognize there are flaws to that game, though. There are some.
Oh, yeah.
And one of the biggest ones is a later chapter in the game, which I have not played the revised version of that.
And Chapter 13.
Yeah, Chapter 13. You get to play the revised version. We got to suffer through, and I mean, dude, that chapter was fucking terrible. I hated it. I think I hated it more than you did, Alex.
Yeah. I was actually teasing it on a podcast. I told you, like, when you get to the infamous Chapter 13, you're going to hate life. You're going to hate me even. But you're going to hate me for telling you to hate that, but you're going to hate it more.
Yeah, I really hated it.
But, yeah, allegedly they fixed it. Speaking of which, I tried to play, like, the episode Gladio, like the DLC for it and stuff. Like, I want to say, like, about a month or so ago. And I don't know, like, it's very different, by the way, than playing like the rest of the game, right? Like, it's kind of funny because like playing as Gladio is so different than playing as Noct that I kind of missed playing as Noct, and so it's almost as if like the DLC is preventing me from enjoying itself because the rest of the main game was actually pretty good in hindsight. It's a weird experience.
I haven't played Chapter Gladio or whatever.
Yeah, episode Gladio.
Yeah, I haven't played it. I mean, I still have games from January I need to play, like Tales of Berseria and Yakuza 0.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. I just have too much, so that's just going to have to wait.
Yeah.
And The Witcher 3.
Yeah, speaking of games that are older.
Yeah, Witcher 3. Have you played The Witcher 3, Xander?
I haven't, but when you said Witcher 3, it just reminded me. Have you guys read the latest issue of Game Informer?
No.
Okay, because this was something I was actually ranting on Facebook because they have a top 100 best RPG games of all time. And can you guys guess what number 1 best RPG of all time is,
Skyrim?
According to Game? Yep.
The what? Skyrim?
Yeah.
Fuck. I'm quitting. Fuck this. No, I am. That game angers me so much. I mean,
I haven't played Witcher 3, but what I hear is like Witcher 3, it fixes everything that Skyrim wasn't. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, Witcher 3 was number 3 and Skyrim was number 1.
So wait. What was number 2?
Number 2 was Final Fantasy 6.
Okay. That's a weird.
Then
that's
what
a
the
weird
fuck is
top
Chrono
3.
Trigger?
Grandia 2 was like number 38.
Whoa.
Dragon Warrior 3 was number 99.
What the fuck?
Wow.
The only thing I could think of is like I read it and I'm like, you know what? I mean, Game Informer is owned by GameStop, and apparently, you know, Skyrim's going to be ported on the Switch. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, this is probably just some weird subliminal marketing to sell HD remasters and the port that's coming out for the Switch that are saying it's number 1. That's the only thing I can think of, because I was just like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah.
I like Skyrim was okay. Mm-hmm. You know, I don't think it was a terrible game, but to me, it couldn't be number 1 because, you know, I've played Final Fantasy 6 numerous times. Mm-hmm. I played Skyrim like once, and I've never went back, and I can't see that being a great RPG. If you can't go back to an RPG, like, why is it so great, you know?
Right. Like, if you're talking about all time, then we're talking about, like, in every single iteration of it, and, you know, and also the question of, well, if I boot this up like about 5 or 10 years from now, mm-hmm. is it gonna still look good? And, you know, if there's anything that we've learned from Bethesda, the developer, is that you boot up like, oh, let me pick a game out of the hat, even though I don't have a hat and I don't have any other thing to think about. Oblivion. You pop that game in right now and you're like, wow, this is a piece of trash. You really, like, in terms of the way that it looks, it's ugly. Like, you know, like, mind you, okay, maybe their rationale, and let me be the devil's advocate, maybe their rationale is because they're moddable. But if that's the case, is it still the same game? And my argument is no. If the reason why, you know, Skyrim is so good is because of the mods and that it could be improved by other players, that's not the game. That's the player base. You know?
Yeah. I always joke that Bethesda. I always joke that Bethesda like just cuts corners because they know the fans are going to fix their game anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it might be like, true.
You know, because I get to see, you know, here's Bethesda's office, and like Todd's like, man, these textures look really, really bad, and like,
right?
He's like, it's okay, Todd. You know, the fans will fix that. Let's just go ahead and put it out, get a paycheck.
Yeah.
You know what though? For you though, Xander, going back to The Witcher 3, I think you would like that game.
Yeah, I definitely want to check it out eventually.
Yeah.
It's really good, but be prepared to put in a lot of time in that game. And again, I am in the camp that I prefer the JRPG, and I've always said this about The Witcher 3, and Alex and I have always been on the same page about this, is that people forget that The Witcher 3 is not an American-made game. It's from another country. It's Poland. And what I'm learning is from, you know, people outside of the U.S., you normally run into games with character-driven stories. Mm-hmm. That's why JRPGs are, in my opinion, so much more memorable because they're character-driven. And that's what makes The Witcher 3. And what's so funny about The Witcher 3 is, as dark and serious as that game is, it has almost this Japanese quirkiness to it.
Mm-hmm.
It does. It really does. So, like, I know there's a lot of people who love JRPGs. You know, a mutual guy that you and I know, Chris Grennan. You know Chris Grennan, right, Xander?
Yeah.
Yeah, he loves that fucking game, but he mostly just plays old school JRPGs. So that says something about The Witcher 3, I think.
Yeah, let me pile on to this, because we're gonna sell. By the end of this episode, I want Xander to buy like the Game of the Year edition of this game. So, so The Witcher 3 is unique because it has all the elements of a lot of the RPGs that you personally like, and I'm not even gonna venture to guess what those are. But the one most important thing that this game does, that not any of those games actually does, is, for the first time ever, finally, we have an RPG where choices have actual ramifications. Like, yeah, we're talking about, remember in Fallout 3 where you had the fate of this entire town, whether or not it's blown up or still existing, like in your hands? Well, multiply that by, I don't know, maybe 15 or 20 times. Oh,
wow.
And that exists in the game. And the thing is, like, the game doesn't spend a lot of, doesn't waste time in making you realize your mistakes sometimes. Like, there was this one time that, that happened to me, and, I was, like, so aghast by what happened. And, and the thing is, too, The Witcher 3 is not a short game. So yes.
No.
Yeah. So you can save scum and try to get the best, kind of, choices and stuff like that. But what's the fun in that? And that's the thing that I found myself doing in The Witcher 3 is I learned to live with the mistakes of my choices, and I just continued playing. And what's interesting is, like, it's almost as if I'm actually crafting a unique world that's very different from what Anthony has. It's very different from what my two other friends have. And that's so good, because once you actually get to the table, and start talking about your experiences, you'll be like, wait, I could save that guy, or I could save that whole village from being, like, completely destroyed. Like, how the fuck did you do that? And it all, and it all kind of, like, is very natural. Like, people will just start remembering. And mind you, again, 200 hours of this game, but somehow, somewhere, you will always remember a lot of the events that happen, and you can always talk to somebody who's played the game about it, and they'll be like, "Yep, I did that. I did," and then it's an interesting game to actually have conversations with because of how rich that narrative is.
And one thing the game has mastered is the side quest. I mean, this game has completely changed the way I view side quests, Xander, because every side quest could be the plot of a 10-hour game.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not kidding you. They could be. And you know what? The main character, Geralt of Rivera, what is it?
Geralt of
Rivera.
It's Geralt of Rivera.
Okay, there you go.
Geralt.
That dude, Geralt. Yeah, he gets fleshed out too in all these side quests. So it fleshes out all these characters, and what's funny is what the game does is in the main narrative, you'll meet characters that help you in the main narrative, but then they'll branch off into another side quest. And then what's interesting is there's these monster hunts, right, Xander? And like the monster hunts in like Final Fantasy?
Yeah.
Okay. You know how those are just like kind of like kill monsters, get experience points, that's it? All the monster contracts have a plot. They all have a storyline. And like sometimes you'll like you'll realize the monster's not that bad, but the human is that bad, or something like is the worst one. So that's how crazy that game is.
And you get quests just by wandering. Like sometimes you'll find somebody like in the middle of a quest and you just can do it. But here's the thing. I think this is the thing that might seal the deal. So when the game first came out, they had a $30, like season pass. So separately, the two expansions that they had is $20 each, right? The Game of the Year expansion or Game of the Year edition basically contains it already, right? We've told you that it's a 200-hour game already. But so check this out. So the Hearts of Stone, which is one of the expansions, is 10 hours long, which, it's like, all right, it's 10 hours, right? Like, what's the next one? It's going to be like another 10, 15 hours, right? Actually, no. Like, or actually, was it Hearts of Stone that's actually... Yeah, Hearts of Stone.
Blood and Wine is the one.
Yeah, Blood and Wine, which is the expansion that they released later. Not only did they introduce a completely different landmass, like we're talking a huge landmass. We're talking like maybe it's the size of like Skyrim, just for that landmass alone. But it's also a 40-hour main story.
Oh,
and
wow.
That doesn't include side quests.
That doesn't include side quests at all. So
jeez,
we're talking like a huge, rich environment that, like, personally, like there have been several times over the past year or so that I've just been like, you know what? I'm going to go back to The Witcher 3 and I'm going to do like the worst mistakes I could ever do in some of my playthroughs. And I want to see how some of them play out, because that's just how interesting that game is.
And
that's DLC done right there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, the way they did DLC, Xander, was interesting. When the game first came out, I got it about 2 months after it was released. All the DLC was free. Now, that's not the 2 packs, but they released a lot of free DLC. And then you never, like extra costumes for the female characters and stuff. All that shit that normally people price. Even Atlas has done this with Persona 5, and I got suckered into it. But costumes and like wet cards and things like that, those were free. But the only ones that you paid for were the 2 expansions Alex just described for you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. And there's Gwent, too. We completely forgot to tell you about Gwent. That's a whole experience in itself.
Yeah, it's like if you ever hated like playing Magic the Gathering or Hearthstone, this is definitely not that game. It's
I can't do Magic.
Yeah,
I've tried.
This is a lot more strategic than that. Well, I shouldn't say it's more strategic, but this is a lot more, how should I say this, easier to swallow. Because this is really just about like, having it's hard to explain, but there is a standalone Gwent game that's going to be free to play. Like, I think if you get into that kind of explains to you like what Gwent is. It's basically more like a positioning / strategy game that is actually very fast to play, and it's very rewarding too.
Yeah, Magic the Gathering is like one of those things I've always been intrigued about. I'm like, oh man, Magic's so cool, and then I go to play it, and it's really, I don't know, it's hard for me to grab the concept. I think it's just I got the wrong teachers to kind of try to teach me how to play Magic, but then again, it might have been the atmosphere because it was one of those game nights where we were all drinking and they're like, hey, let's play some Magic. I don't know how to play Magic. Let me show you how to play Magic while they're playing Magic.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was like, it started feeling like math, and I'm like, I don't want to do math.
Yeah, I'm
kind of Contra.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Like, I was trying to get myself into like Hearthstone like about a year ago, and it's just so difficult to get into. Like, I love Blizzard as a developer, and it's interesting because you listen to a very, very old episode of the show, and Anthony actually says that they're like an overrated company. But right now, what's that?
That was before Overwatch, and I actually like Diablo 3. So.
There you go.
They're still pretty overrated, but those games I like. So.
Okay. But, like, it's interesting because, like, I really wanted to get into Hearthstone, and it was just the barrier of entry is just so high, right? Like, especially if you weren't there on day one, I mean, they put in rules so that now any card that you buy now is relevant, but then the cards you bought, like, I don't know, 2-3 years ago are irrelevant. So it's like, it's weird because it's like, it's almost like you're paying for a subscription, but by buying card packs, it's kind of weird, It's like,
yeah,
you get what I'm saying? It's like you're paying to survive in a game that could make your cards or the content that you bought several years ago irrelevant. And I'm not okay with that.
That's how Magic is. That's how Magic is. I played Magic since high school, and I still play it, but I play it very casually. But there are cards that I have from my high school days that are not allowed in official tournaments. I don't play in tournaments because Magic players are, most of the ones I run into, douchebags. A lot of them are. Because they're like jocks, except they're pretending to be wizards. That's the difference. They're jock wizards. But, it's that same problem that you're having with Hearthstone, Alex. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I said, I play Magic casually, but it's trickier to do that in an online game like Hearthstone.
Mm-hmm. Now, the interesting thing is, like, with Gwent, and I guess I should explain how Gwent is. So basically, your goal is to score higher than your opponent in terms of score. And in order to do this, you basically put cards that have numbers on them. And of course, don't worry, the game actually keeps track of the number on the side. So you don't have to do the math yourself, right?
Right.
But what's interesting is that there's 3 different kinds of troops. There's the frontliners, who are the melee people. There's the bow and arrow people, or the range people, or mages too. And the ballista people, which are sieges, right? So depending on the card, each of them have different numbers. But check this out. You can only put a soldier where the frontliners are going to be, as an example. You can only put the archers where the archers are supposed to be, etc., etc. It sounds complicated, but this is the only modifier that really makes it simple. You can cast weather conditions on those people to lower the number. So, for example, a weather condition happens for like the frontliners that makes it snow too much. So all of their, numbers go from like different numbers to 1. And so the number, like basically lowers. So essentially, like, it doesn't have, what I'm saying here is it doesn't have the complicated rule set of Hearthstone where it's like, oh, like you damage the main person, and damage the troops that are on the field or something like that. No. There is no such thing as other person. It's only the cards that are on the board. So it's almost like playing a board game as opposed to like Magic the Gathering or, Hearthstone. And that's what makes it appealing. And The Witcher has it. The Witcher 3 does have it. Mm-hmm. And it's super simple to get into.
I'm embarrassed by my Gwent decks. You know why?
Why?
I'm a badass Witcher with some cool ass armor, but the fat innkeeper who runs a fucking rundown inn has better Gwent cards than me. God damn it!
But yeah,
fuck.
But that's the thing, though. Like, that's a deep game in an already amazing RPG, and that's what's amazing about The Witcher 3. It literally is like, the question that you guys get asked all the time, like, if you had one game that you can take on a deserted island, what would it be? Mine would be The Witcher 3.
Mm-hmm. And we're Xander, we're both, me and Alex, I know you know me better than Alex, you know this about me, but we both prefer JRPGs over Westerns. And we love The Witcher 3. I think you would really like it, man. Did we sell you on it?
Yeah. I definitely had to check it out because I have listened to past episodes and I remember hearing you guys talking about Witcher 3. And I had to say, like, the enthusiasm you guys have about Witcher 3 is the same enthusiasm that James has about Yakuza. And, when I hear that type of enthusiasm about a video game, it's infectious, and I'm like, dude, I gotta try this out. That's one of the reasons why I tried out Binding of Isaac. I heard it was so awesome. My friend, like, who doesn't really game a whole lot, like, that was the one game that he played all the time, and he was like, dude, you gotta check this out. It's like twin stick and it's like Zelda, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I played it, and it's one of those things like there's very seldom games that I absolutely hate. There's games that I'll play that's just not my cup of tea, but I can appreciate what the craft was, and that's that was Binding of Isaac. Where Witcher 3 definitely. I mean, I would be lying if I said I wasn't looking on my cell phone while you guys were talking about it and seeing how much it was going for on Amazon.
$47.90 for the complete edition. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, that's really not bad considering how much. Consider how much meat you're getting on the bone, too,
Oh, my God. Even with dude, I'll be honest, the main game by itself was worth the $60 I paid for it.
Yeah, easily. So
easily by itself. But buying, the main game with everything else is fucking even a better deal. I mean, it's worth $49, but if there's a flash sale, we got the spring sale coming up, I'm sure, here in a couple.
I think it already happened, dude.
Oh, fuck.
But it's summer already. I mean, come on.
I know, but if they have like the spring sale still happening, maybe Xander could catch on there because they do discount The Witcher 3 a lot.
Yeah, lately though.
Yeah, to check that out.
Yeah, I mean, I still think the deal on Amazon is pretty good, but not because of our affiliate or anything like that, our affiliation or the link. It really is like. Again, like I'm with Anthony. I'm so proud of like buying the season pass and the actual game itself. And frankly, I'm looking forward to their take on Mass Effect. I mean, Cyberpunk 2077, because they already whooped Dragon Age ass pretty fast. So
yeah, and it's not too hard to destroy Glitch Andromeda. So I mean Andromeda, excuse me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got to ask you, Xander, are you a longtime Mass Effect fan?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I knew this.
It's one of those games I tried to play the first one, and here's the thing: I hear the first one is kind of rough.
Oh God, yes.
It's kind of rough getting into, and people tell me like, oh, just stick with it. Mass Effect 2 was awesome. Mass Effect 3 is like, nah. That's what I keep hearing. Mm-hmm. And the thing about it is like I don't have a whole lot of time to play video games sometimes, and I'm not the kind of person that if you were to try to sell a game to me and you're like, man, it gets really good after you play at least 10 hours of it.
I hate that argument.
A game, especially with JRPGs, I know some games had that build up. You know, you're going to be playing it for a good, 3 or 4 hours before you start getting to the sweet stuff,
Right.
But I can't play a game for like as long as it would take for me to finish a whole day of work in order to get some sort of enjoyment. I just can't. I can't do it. So I mean, that's one of the reasons why I haven't been able to get into Mass Effect. I appreciate and I admire the fan base of Mass Effect. I mean, because some people treat it like Star Wars. I'm like, man, these people really love some Mass Effect, but man, I couldn't get past the 2 hours.
See, I'll be honest, the original trilogy story, and I don't give a fuck what people complain about the ending to 3. Sure you heard about that, Xander. But
yeah.
But I think the original trilogy story is amongst, in my opinion, those 3 games amongst the best video game stories ever told, in my opinion. Which Andromeda, not so much, but the original trilogy, hell yeah. So.
See, my whole thing is, if you came to me and you asked me like, well, is this series worth playing? I would have told you to just go straight to 2. Because, because Mass Effect 1, you're right, that is such a plotting game. But here's the thing, the PlayStation 3 version of it, and I believe some of the versions of Mass Effect 2 do carry it. They do have kind of like an interactive comic that you could play in the beginning.
Yeah. I heard about that.
That kind of summarizes what happened, in the first game anyway. But not only that, you actually get to make the important decisions that occur in the first game without ever having to deal with, 20, 30 hours of that game. So because that's actually what I did. Previously, I went back to Mass Effect 1, and I encountered the same thing you did. I'm like, oh my god, this cover system sucks, and, these enemies aren't dying, like, the dice roll system in this thing is terrible. And then I decided, you know what? I have the trilogy. I'm going to jump to 2. And I did the whole, comic thing, did my choices, and just the first few minutes of, like, Mass Effect 2 alone, that was fantastic. Like, the cover-based shooting is, like, more solid. The storytelling is a ton better, and it was just really, really good. And, yeah, again, like, if you came up to me and asked me about it, I would have been like, yeah, Mass Effect 2, forget 1.
Yeah, I mean, the thing, and what I do like about Mass Effect, and I like this about games, and this is what attracts me to Witcher 3, is when you guys were talking about choice making, about how your experience of a game could be very different from someone else's experience.
Yeah.
That was one of the things I liked about Telltale's Walking Dead. I don't really watch the show too much. I'm not really that much into the comics. But when the game came out, that was one of the things I heard, that, you made decisions and stuff, and it was great. It got to the point where, when I was playing season 1, it got to the point where in the 4th episode where you got to make that dire decision, I actually paused the game and went outside and took a smoke break, and then thought about what I was going to do. I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm going to tell the people that this happened, or I'm just going to let this happen, And then at that moment, I was like, man, this is a really good game. I'm that much emotionally invested into decision making, and I was taken in that much by the story. And I think that's a good thing about some of these games, with the choice making. Some people think it's overrated, and they're like, oh, every game, you got to make a choice, In some games, I do admit, it is almost like a gimmick where you make a choice that doesn't really matter. It still happens the way they eventually want it to happen.
Right.
But some games don't do that. You make a decision, and it's like, yep, that's how it goes. Kind of choose your own adventure thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's what's the most appealing thing about, like, the Walking Dead, when they kind of presented that idea. It's like really groundbreaking for the time, and like, it's kind of interesting because I feel as gamers we've become a lot more sophisticated, and we're a lot sharper in catching, like, the little tricks that that people give us in terms of, like, masking the illusion of choice, if you will. And, and it's kind of sad to me because, like, I'm the kind of person that, like, likes looking at the behind the scenes stuff. But at the same time, when it's kind of like learning how to do a magic trick, right? Like, what actually, entails on that, right? What actually, what is, like, for example, you're trying to saw somebody in half, right? Well, you're not really sawing somebody in half, you got to do this. And you're like, oh, the magic is gone, basically, right? And
yeah.
It's almost like that's happening to me with a lot of these quote-unquote illusions of choice where, like, for example, in Persona 5, which, currently playing, they give you 2 choices or 3 choices in the dialogue, but then you notice that they add one piece of dialogue that addresses that, but then it funnels it into just whatever the narrator wants you to kind of experience, right? It's kind of interesting. Speaking of which, not to toot my own horn here, but I actually retweeted a very good photo of Kanji from Persona 4 Golden, and the caption on the tweet says "Open World Games," and this is what Kanji says. "It's pretty impressive that you put so many ingredients into a dish and it came out tasting absolutely nothing." Which, I think that's telling for most people that, make games with the illusion of choice just for the sake of having choice, right? Like, to have, like, a bullet point saying, like, well, our game has choice making too,
Yeah. Like I said, it became a really heavy trend a couple of years ago. It's like every game I was playing, it was like, oh, you make your own choices, And
yeah,
Telltale, that was their bread. That's their bread and butter is decision making. I mean, they even did it with Minecraft. When I played, I never really could get into Minecraft, but I tried the Minecraft story mode, and I was like, this is just like Walking Dead, but it's Minecraft.
Minecraft characters.
It was like, oh no, don't let the pig die.
I got to ask you, Xander. One Telltale game that I've liked and I still need to finish is the Batman one. Did you play the Batman one?
I haven't, but I wanted to. And one of the key reasons why I wanted to play the Batman Telltale game, and maybe you can answer this, do they focus a little bit more about the fact that Batman's a detective?
Yes.
Okay,
that's
good.
What I love about it.
Yeah, because that's I feel like that's one of the qualities that Hollywood Batman just never does. They make him this badass dude, but he's also a really awesome. I mean, he's the world's best detective. So I mean, like, that makes me want to play it. The only thing is like I just haven't had a chance to play it because Telltale games are, you have to wait for those episodes to come out on one disc and kind of binge play it like you would a Netflix series.
Right.
Batman's been going on sale a lot lately digitally, and the whole season's done. So. It's been done since like December, I think.
I think so, yeah. What's really sad is I still get like keys for, for games, for Telltale games, but like I don't have, I don't like playing them on Steam. Like I want to play them on like my PS4. So, coincidentally, I actually emailed them today saying, hey, by the way, the review copies are PS4 is our lead platform. Can you send us codes for that as opposed to Steam? Like today, speaking of Walking Dead, I actually got a code for like the entire season 3 for Walking Dead. And I'm like, I can't play this, guys. I mean, come on. Like, and I don't, as much as I play certain games on PC, that's the kind of game that I want to play on my couch because, like there's a certain, I don't know if you guys agree with this, but like there are certain games that, are just conducive to playing on the couch versus games that are conducive to playing on a desktop, like on an office table. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I agree.
Exactly.
So that's really all I have. I just ranted because I'm like, why? I probably have a Steam copy of Batman somewhere in my inbox, but I can't play it because it's on Steam. Fantastic. So.
Oh, Alex.
What?
No, just saying. I wish you. Batman's pretty good. It's probably my favorite Telltale game since Walking Dead season 1.
Dude, no, The Wolf Among Us you liked.
Oh, I have it, but I haven't played it. It's in my
God damn it! What are you doing? That's a really good one.
I have other things to play. Too many, as you know. See, here's the problem with me. I am drowning in my backlog.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. So I want to ask Xander something real quick. Let's go back to Nintendo for a moment. So tomorrow, as of this recording, we are getting Fire Emblem Echoes, the new Fire Emblem game.
Yeah.
Okay, now my question is not about Fire Emblem, but it's more about, do you think this is going to be the last big Nintendo release for the 3DS?
I don't know, because that new 2DS XL kind of came out of nowhere. I'm hoping, and this is going to sound terrible, I'm hoping that it gets to the point where the Switch is just the main motive of Nintendo.
I'm so with you on that.
I mean, because the thing is like, I thought the 3DS, fantastic handheld. It's been out long enough. Let it rest. And because I think you guys can agree with me, there's so many Nintendo Directs that we've watched that if you're a Wii U owner, you just felt neglected. There'd be like there'd be a 30-minute Direct on 3DS, and then like a 2-minute Direct on Wii U showing Smash Brothers, and they're like, spring. That's all they would say. And I'm just like, come on, man. Because I mean, I like the Wii U. I thought the Wii U was a good console. I think it was. I think in some aspects it was very underrated, not just by the fans, but by the companies.
Right.
I think it had some good moments to it, and I think years from now, people are going to be like, "Oh, the Wii U." They're going to talk about the Wii U like they did Dreamcast in about 5 years or so. But I mean, Nintendo really dropped the ball, and it was rolling down the freaking hallway with the Wii U. I mean, it had so much potential, but luckily, I think it's funny because a lot of the problems that I had with the Wii U, they fixed it so far with the Switch.
Oh yeah.
I feel like the Switch is what the Wii U should have been.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is one thing to think about as well, and I don't really want to kind of get back into the Nintendo topic because I think we spent like a whole hour talking about just Nintendo.
Well, I just wanted to ask him about the 3DS. That's all. Jesus, Alex.
Yeah, but like, the thing to think about is that the Switch was actually in development when Iwata was still alive.
Yeah.
And I felt personally that the Wii U was an intermediary until they got their shit together for the Switch. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting that we're getting games like Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on it and new IPs, but at the same time, I'm not too surprised. I wouldn't be surprised even if we got like a port of Mario Maker Wii U on there and a bunch of ports, of like, the Smash Brothers from the Wii U as well. So to me, it's like that was a part of me like saying like, it's okay not to have a Wii U because guess what? It most likely will come to the Switch anyway.
Well, it's like when they, one of the things that I didn't really get upset about, but I was just kind of like, oh my gosh. Well, it's like the first 2 years that the PlayStation and Xbox One were out. I mean, we had all the HD remasters. It was pretty much like the first time you had the PS4, the first year, it was like a PS 3.5.
Yeah.
And I would tell people, I'm like, because, I was kind of upset that there was no backwards capability.
Right.
There was no backwards capability, but they were selling people games like The Last of Us, and I knew people who had like platinum Last of Us that went out and bought it day one for PlayStation 4 just because.
Yeah.
And, I always tell people, I'd be like, well, why do you keep buying this? Why are you buying this right now? And they're like, oh, for the people that had a 360, maybe they get a chance to play Last of Us, and this is your chance to do it. You know what? I can use that same argument with Nintendo, with the Wii U and Switch. Even more so because the Wii U sold like poop, So, I mean, like, you got this huge base of people who bought the Switch who never got to experience Mario Maker, who never got to experience Super Mario, like Smash Brothers, never got to play Bayonetta 2. I'm like, oh man, you've never played Bayonetta 2 and Hyrule Warriors? Let's have definitive and better versions of it for the Switch.
Yeah.
As long as it's priced right,
Yeah, well, this is Nintendo we're talking about here.
that was a little wishful thinking on that end part, but yeah.
Of course. So, okay, kind of leaving this topic a little bit, you mentioned Yakuza 0, which personally, I couldn't believe that Yakuza Kiwami is coming out in August for $30. I was like, are you kidding me? $30. It's insane.
Oh, that means they need to beat Yakuza 0 soon.
Yeah, you do.
Yes.
Yeah.
I still need to beat Heaven's Ward.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, the new expansion for like Final Fantasy 14 is coming in June.
Oh. I don't know if you know this, Alex, but Xander has played a lot of Final Fantasy 14.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't play it anymore, but I played a good chunk of it. I mean, I don't know. I played it because I was one of my friends. She played it a lot, and she kind of just sold me on it. I had never played an MMO before. That was my first MMO I ever played. Was Final Fantasy 14.
So what you think?
And it was fun. It was really fun. I'm just not that much of an MMO kind of person because my problem is I like that gratification in the sense that, if I finish something, I'm done with it. Where, I about like flipped out the first time I ever got a Chocobo because it was like, okay, you do this. All right. all right, now you can get a chocobo. And I'm like, all right, sweet. So I'm going to go get a chocobo. I'm like, level 20. Here I go. And she's like, oh, wait, you got to do this mission. Okay, I'm going to do this mission. She's like, you're going to need license and insurance. I'm like, what the hell? You know? And she hadn't been playing Final Fantasy 14 since it first came out. Like before A New Realm. Like, she was playing it there. So she was like so freaking powerful. And here I am, like, just trying to catch up. And I think that was the biggest problem is I was playing just to get to the point where we could actually play together.
I see.
Because I felt like, you know, that little brother that was like, no, you know, just grown-ups talking, you know, with the guilds and stuff like that. Like, oh, you're just a level, blah, blah, blah. You can't do this yet. They were very nice. I don't mean it as in like I was in a really bad guild. They were awesome. But I mean, there was stuff that they're like, hey, we're going to go out and do this mission and we're going to fight Ifrit. I'm like, I want to fight Ifrit. They're like, no, you can't do it yet.
Yeah. So to kind of, you know, the interesting thing is probably between the time that you left and then the time that I'm still playing, which is now, they've actually completely nerfed some of those leveling activities. So it's a lot easier to actually level to get to 50. Actually, it's even, you know, by the time the expansion comes out, it's going to be easier to even get to level 60. And the thing is that I like about Final Fantasy, and I'm pretty sure you've heard both of us talk about this before, is just the story. Like, you know, if you can consider A Realm Reborn as the primer for what's going to happen to you in the expansions, that's a great way to kind of take a look at it. Because, like let's put it this way. I told Anthony when he started that if he doesn't have time to play Final Fantasy, to at least spend at least an hour a day just doing the daily leveling roulette. Because just doing that one simple activity every single day, you'll get yourself a lot closer to the end of the game. And that's the thing. It's like you know, one thing that I want to kind of do on the website at some point is to kind of start teaching people again how to get into it, because I feel like there is a wrong way to play MMOs. And what I mean by that is there is, you know, by a wrong way is you're going to waste more time because nobody there is kind of like helping you. But
that was kind of my problem.
Yeah.
Because when I first started, I was wanting to be a healer, and it was just like I was wanting to be a healer, and I was wanting to advance as fast as possible, which is like, it's like, and I remember I was telling her, I was like, I just want to get to the point where we can go be on chocobos and run around. She was like, then why did you choose to be a healer? And I'm like, because I like to help people.
But it's funny because healers actually get a lot of help. You know, when you go into dungeons, you're actually one of the fastest people to get into dungeons and stuff. I mean, I know I know I'm a healer, so you know.
Yeah, so I played a little bit as a healer, and then I started playing as a monk. Like I had another character, I made a monk, and that's when I started having a lot more fun.
Right,
doing those like, you know, brawling missions. I'm like, all right, this is cool. This is cool.
Yeah,
it is a really fun game. I always tell people, you know, because, you know, some people are not as open-minded, and they're like, man, you know, Final Fantasy is really, really great. I just hate that they made those online ones. I'm like, dude, you have no idea what you're missing. Just the fan service alone on Final Fantasy 14. I mean, when me and my friend, when we went to Gold Saucer, that was like, I was looking forward to that like all day. I was at work, and I'm like, 3 more hours so I get to go to Gold Saucer, you know? I was looking forward to it so much. And I remember when I went there, I was just like, I felt like a kid going to Chuck E. Cheese the first time. I was so excited.
Yeah.
We have found out, Alex has found out that Gold Saucer is the bane of me in that game.
Yeah, because you just stay there for like hours. I'm like, I hope you're queued up for like the daily roulette because, you know.
No, and then I tell Alex, I'm racing chocobos. He's like, why?
Yeah. So, but like, what's cool though about like 14 is like it is a Final Fantasy amusement park. You know, like, you know, and I don't know if you know this little bit of trivia, but you'll notice like the Garlean Empire army has like a number at the end of their name, at the end of their, you know, kind of legion, because they call them legions, and A Realm Reborn's legion was 14. The number of the legion in Heavensward is 6, and the number of the legion in the upcoming Stormblood game is 12. Those aren't randomly picked numbers. Those actually represent a Final Fantasy. And
yeah.
And a lot of them are actually, and that's kind of like, to visually show you that, yeah, by the way, this storyline, this place, this thing that you're experiencing right now is totally inspired by that. And when I saw that the 6th Legion was in Heavensward, I was like thinking to myself, we better have a Kefka fight. But they did me one better by basically saying like, oh yeah, the 3 goddess statues from Final Fantasy VI, you're going to fight them right now. And I'm like, oh my God.
Oh shit.
Yeah, that was one of the things I did like I liked that a whole lot. I remember playing with a big group of people, and we were doing the Final Fantasy 13 missions, the lightning missions, and like lightning comes out of nowhere and helps you start fighting, and you hear that music. And I'll say I'm not a huge Final Fantasy 13 fan. I think most people aren't a huge Final Fantasy 13 fan, but the soundtrack was awesome in 13. I love the battle theme, and you start hearing that, and then like I remember like when she was done, she was walking away, and we were all running behind her, and be like, "Oh my God, come back, lightning!" And I love the Dragon Quest events they had. I had the King Slime hat, and I was walking around with that, and I had a little golem mount that would or little pet that would follow me around. See, they do stuff like that it's just like. I don't know how anyone can say they're a Final Fantasy fan and not get excited hearing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, this game is awesome for Final Fantasy fans.
Yeah, and also, like, for people who are listening who actually haven't tried Final Fantasy 14, you have absolutely no excuse now. Because if you download the client on the PS4, Mac, or PC, you can actually play for free all the way up to level 35.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's a good chunk of the game.
It is a good chunk of the game. So right now, you could literally download the game, download the free trial, and basically play all the way to level 35, which is, like Anthony said, a good chunk of the game. 2 trials, which I think includes Titan, which... oh, that Titan fight. And, and some good story. You can even get your Chocobo as well, which is freaking fantastic, I'd say.
Yeah, I did also hear that, I believe it was today or sometime this week, because my friend that I played Final Fantasy 14 with, she actually logged into Final Fantasy 11 because they had the 15th anniversary.
Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. 11 is a game I'll never touch.
I played a little bit of it. Now, mind you, by the time I played Final Fantasy 11, it was no longer what it was. I mean, it's very dumbed down now, and I mean the servers are not even relevant on 360, and that's what I was playing it on.
Yeah.
But I've heard horror stories. I mean, that was a very hardcore MMO.
Way too hardcore for my taste. That was actually my first MMO, and I was stuck at level 50 for about 6 months because I couldn't get a party. So,
holy shit!
Yeah, there was no matchmaking or anything, Anthony. I just stood there as my Dark Knight, and nobody would take me as a party member. I'm like,
you're just there in Juneau, just listening to the music,
basically. Yeah,
you're begging, be in my party. You're like the bum with the fucking cup.
But the thing is, the parties in that one like really suck anyway. But anyways, so I mean, we're kind of going to like our 2-hour mark here, so I think we should start wrapping up. But before we go though, because we have like a shit ton of freaking email on like on our podcast, I do want to kind of like at least read one of them. And Xander, obviously you're a guest, so you just have to answer it. So let me pick one. Let's see. What's a good one? All right. I'm still picking. Actually, here's a good one. Dear Alex and Anthony and Xander, I'm just gonna add that. I've been playing Wonder Boy 3: The Dragon's Trap for the Switch. Or actually, is it on the Switch? I don't know if it's on the Switch.
Yeah, it is.
It is on the Switch. Okay. Okay, so let me restart. I've been playing Wonder Boy 3: The Dragon's Trap. It's a fun game, but it also has the ability to change the graphics into the original Sega Master System version. Unfortunately, I avoid it because it's not too cool to look at. So my question is there actually a market to bring retro games like Shovel Knight and Axiom Verge, why not just stick to a modern style like Wonder Boy 3? And this is by Lewis. I don't really know the question, actually, now that I'm thinking about it.
I think maybe he's asking like maybe making like a more modern version of Shovel Knight.
Like modernize the graphics. Okay, I get that.
It's kind of like Mega Man 8, and then you got Mega Man 2.
Okay.
You know, that or even better, Mega Man 8, and then they went back to the NES graphics with Mega Man 9.
Mm-hmm.
That type of difference he's probably talking about.
Okay. So, I don't know. What do you guys think?
Oh, go ahead, Xander.
I'll say this, and this may be an unpopular opinion, because I love retro, but one of the things that has kind of started irking me a little bit about indie is indie games that look retro for the sake of being retro. A game like Shovel Knight, that looks retro. It plays like a retro game. It feels great. Another game I've been playing lately was Kiro Blaster.
Mm-hmm.
It's straight up retro. It fits it. But then you just have some of these games like Path of the Seven Godsends. You know, it was pretty much like a Ghouls and Goblins kind of clone. It looked very retro, and it played like crap. It does not play good whatsoever. But you would talk to people and they'd be like, "Oh man, it's like Ghouls and Ghosts. It's got that retro look to it." I think it's just got to fit the way it is. I don't think an indie game, just like a AAA game, shouldn't just hold itself over a certain thing. You know, rather like it's like, "Oh, but you got decision making.
Right.
This one looks like it's made in 1992." It needs to have something a little bit more essence to it. If you're going to make an indie game, make it feel like an indie game. Or I shouldn't say indie, I should say retro. You know, if you're going to make a retro game, make it feel retro. Now, with Wonder Boy, I can see maybe it doesn't look as appealing to him because maybe he's never played Wonder Boy, and this is his way of playing it for the first time. And the way the game's been remade, it looks great. It's like hand-drawn. It looks awesome. Going from that and going to the original Sega Master System is very, very different. But I like the fact they did do that. You know, they left it open. Yeah. So I think that's kind of my answer to it.
Okay.
Yeah. As you know, I've talked about this numerous times on the show. My position is exactly where Xander. That's why I love games like Axiom Verge and Shovel Knight, because they feel. I've said this millions of times about Shovel Knight particularly and Axiom Verge, is they feel like their respective genres, and they feel like they could have came out at the time those games were heavily popular. Like Axiom Verge, I think, could have been an SNES game. You know, Shovel Knight could have been an 8-bit platformer, because they don't just look it, they feel like it. But like Xander said, there's a lot of games that look 8-bit just for the sake of 8-bit. And, you know, as much as I like Binding of Isaac and as much as I like Super Meat Boy, those are two games that just look retro to look retro. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they're good games. And I like both of them, but they don't feel retro, but they look retro.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm with Xander on the same page. What about you, Alex?
For me, it's kind of, I have an interesting answer, because I feel like we're still living in a generation where people are young/old enough to remember the old school 8-bit, 16-bit, even let's lump in 32-bit era of, you know, like the pixel art and stuff like that. So I feel like sometimes people pick pixel art for their art style to kind of give a sense of friendliness, if you will, like, or approachability, right? Like, because they're familiar with it. Yeah. When you get like a 3D game, like a hardcore 3D game, you know, and for like somebody who's never played a game in a long time, it kind of pushes them away. You know what I mean? It's like, but then you look at something like Shovel Knight as a good example. It's actually a really good example. And then you see like elements that you've seen before or that feel familiar, right? Like the pogo jump from like DuckTales, or the fact that the enemies are kind of sort of like Mega Man characters in their own way, like the enemies and stuff. It's like, you know, you immediately kind of like, you know, tap into that part of your brain where it's like, all right, this is comfortable again. This isn't something daunting. This isn't something where, you know, even though like you're holding a controller that has like 12 or so buttons, probably only 2 of those buttons really work for this game, you know? So I feel like I feel like there is room for both. I don't think, you know, people should always, you know, kind of aim for like higher fidelity if the game doesn't make sense for it, right? Or even for this purpose, right? Like that they're trying to entice more people to try it out because, you know, on the outside, it doesn't look as demanding or as grueling. Although, now that I think about it, there are very demanding and grueling games that look suspiciously simple, but then you realize they're roguelikes, and then you're gone, and your save is completely erased, and yeah, that just happened. Yeah. So much for approachability, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I hate to cut this short, but obviously, like, you know, I mean, 2 hours is pretty short for a general podcast that me and Anthony are in, but, you know, like, I know, like, you're in the East Coast and stuff, but we definitely enjoyed having you here. Do you want to talk about, like, your podcast, Xander, and kind of let us know where else we can find you on the interwebs and whatnot?
Yeah, you guys can check me out. The best way to check me out is YouTube, youtube.com/Xander Scullion. I upload my podcast there, but you can also listen to Excess Game Podcast on iTunes because it is a podcast.
Yes.
You can listen to it on iTunes. Also, Podomatic.com as well. And we usually do at the most 2 episodes a month with Excess Gaming. Now, with my videos, I at least try to make 1 or 2 videos a week. So okay. I upload a lot more videos than I do podcasts just because of scheduling. And I do have a new series opening up on my YouTube channel. It'll be debuting Sunday. Mm-hmm. By the time this episode's out, I'll be probably on like episode 3 of the new series, but it's called Games You Should Check Out. And I mean, the premises of it sounds very basic, you know, because I'm gonna be talking about a handful, maybe at least 4 games that I recommend you guys play. Mm-hmm. But this is where the little spice comes in. I have a segment on that show called 1 Minute Crunch, where I have other content creators describe a game they recommend, but they have to describe this game and recommend it in under 1 minute. So that's what I'm wanting to do. Every episode, I talk about at least 4 games. Then you have a 1 minute crunch for someone outside. It's like, hey, if you ever played Ghouls and Ghosts, this is why you should play it. But they had to describe it in 1 minute. No more, no less.
I think you
should do it less.
I think you should up the ante and ask them to do it in haiku form.
or like do a like a ghost pepper.
Do it with a ghost pepper, did you say?
Yeah.
Gosh.
That'd be terrible.
That
like,
would be terrible.
Tell us in 1 minute why I should play Witcher 3, why you eat a ghost pepper.
Well, that would be interesting because I think that gimmick is free now because that company is gone. So there you go. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us, Xander. It's been an honor and privilege and a joy to have you on our podcast. Finally. After so many years.
Oh, yeah. It's great to be on, man.
Yeah, for sure. And, at some point we'll have to talk about, like, both me and Anthony showing up on your show because, you know, like, as much as Anthony's, you know, like, been on there so many times, I think it's about damn time, like, I catch the bus on that, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We have lattes.
Nice. I don't drink coffee, but thank you. Right.
What's wrong with you, Alex? I need a new co-host.
We'll give you warm milk.
I didn't know you didn't drink coffee. Fuck, we're talking about this after the show.
Okay. All right, guys. Well, that about does it for this episode of the Backlog Battle Podcast. Again, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, email us at podcast@mybacklogbattle.tv. And remember, we have a website, mybacklogbattle.tv. That's without the podcast at. Just go there, okay? And till next week, guys, we'll see you guys later. Happy gaming. Thanks for listening to the Backlog Battle Podcast. Don't forget to email us at podcast@mybacklogbattle.tv if you've got any questions, comments, or suggestions from today's show. You can find Anthony on Twitter at twitter.com/MagusX1 and on YouTube at youtube.com/MagusX1. You can find me on Twitter at twitter.com/mybacklogbattle or on Facebook at facebook.com/mybacklogbattle. The intro and outro song is credited to Laszlo and is titled Imaginary Friends. It is available everywhere where music is sold. On behalf of Anthony, this is Alex saying take care and enjoy your week.